And hello, everybody, live from the Yelling Studios in somewhere in the state of New Jersey and somewhere in the state of Georgia. It's Yelling Live for the NBA Draft 2021. I'm Matt Ryan, and right now I'm joined by the lovely, the talented, the doctor, the man who brings you the list every week on Yelling, my good friend Dr. Marvin Williams. Doc, how are you?
What's up, family? How we doing?
It's a good night here on Yelling. We're going to have some fun falderall for you tonight on the show. We'll be joined by former University of Penn center Hassan Duncombe. We're going to be joined by Tug Coward of 98.3 The Fan down in Atlanta. And I'm going to bring this up right now. We're going to be talking about the NBA draft tonight. We're also going to be talking about sports culture. They're celebrating the 75th anniversary of the NBA, Doc, and that's something that we on our old show, Gotta Say It, on numerous podcasts and television shows, have talked about our love of the history of sports. But we also love rivalries. And if you haven't noticed by now, Doc is a Atlanta sports fan because he lives in the state of Georgia. He wasn't a sports fan when we met him, but he's now a sports fan on Yelling. And that when we made the move to Yelling, he was finally a sports fan, and he had to pick the Atlanta Braves as his baseball team. Now, Doc, you and I have been friends and compatriots for nearly a decade, going back to our days at WKRB at Kingsborough Community College, and you knew I was a diehard Mets fan. And now you are a reckless Braves fan. You are a king of Braves Twitter. So I'm going to ask you right here, right now, did you wear this today to hurt me? Did you do this to hurt your friend Matt Ryan?
First of all, yes. That's the long answer. The short answer is it's really interesting because I grew up with the Braves, with them on radio. You know the story. Grew up with the Braves on radio, but I loved the team. But because I was so analytical about it, I just never became a fan. And you talked me into becoming a fan. You know, we did a whole thing on our old show. We helped me find a team. And at the time, I was finishing up a doctorate program at Boston University. So it became Boston. But then I realized I still love the Braves, man. And I realized thanks to you, I became a Brave. I finally embraced my Brave fandom since 1974. There you go.
And if you want to be a part of the conversation, go to worldwideleadersports.com. And you know what? Shoot us a subscription. Ring the notification bell and also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You see it right under Doc's face. It is We Are Yelling. That's right, We Are Yelling. And we got other people in the studio with us tonight. We've got the winner of the first episode of Hot Takes. We liked him so much, Marvin, that we hired him to be our stats and info guy. Zach Morgan joining us over on the other side of the fake glass here in the real studios. Not my apartment. Nope. The very real Yelling Studios. Zach, how's it going over there?
It's going all right, man. Just scouring Twitter. I found a couple deals that have actually gone down the past couple hours.
So what do you got for us? Hit us up with that.
Where did I go? So according to Adrian Wojnarowski, the Detroit Pistons have sent Mason Plumlee and the 37th overall pick, so the second round pick, to the, who did they send it to? I am so sorry. Where did I see it? Hold on. I lost it. I'm doing great.
That's the fun part of live internet television, everybody. That's the fun part. That's the fun part of this, is that we can just, dick around on the internet and now basically have Zach just try to figure out what's going on.
I've got it. So Detroit finalizing a trade to send Mason Plumlee, the 37th pick, to Charlotte for the 57th pick. It is a salary dump, as one would think, because Plumlee's contract is quite large for what he produces. Then after that, we've got, where we go? Where was it? I believe Ricky Rubio is going to the Cleveland Cavaliers for...
Yep.
No, the Cavaliers are just acquiring Ricky Rubio, a 2022 second-round pick, and for Taurean Prince, it looks like.
That sounds like garbage. That just sounds like a garbage draft day trade.
It's all about moving money. It's all
really
about moving money.
All about creating cap space, yeah. So.
And you know what? It's funny. Zach is right. Teams either are flush with cash and they got so much cash they don't know what to do with it and they're not doing anything with it, or they're pretending to do something with it, or they have no cap room, and that's what draft picks become. It becomes a way to how can I fix my salary cap issue without taking on anything else and be able to manipulate myself so I can form a team. And that's what's going on tonight. I mean, here we go. The Lakers now going to get Russell Westbrook for four other players, and we all know about his unhappiness and what he's doing. But come on, man, we know that's about, okay, how can we move your money and get something back that we can control?
And that's it, you know what? And that's a question that we're going to have to ask all season long now. That's something that we're going to ask all night long here on Tankapalooza 2021. And we have people joining us throughout the night. We've got people from across the sports world, across the sports spectrum, in the first ever live episode of Yelling. And we right now are more than happy to be joined by Michael Lyle Jr. from New England Public Radio. I believe I got that right. Michael, are you there with us?
I am there. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great. And
Outstanding.
glad to have you with us. Glad to have you on Yelling. And Michael, right now, taking a look at the NBA draft, Cade Cunningham, obviously, he's about to be picked by the Detroit Pistons. Another instant millionaire in the world of sports in 2021. Something we should be celebrating, I believe, culturally in the United States. The fact that we're able to see these people change their lives in a millisecond. We'll get to Zach Wilson in a minute, Doc, because that's something I want to talk about with you regarding the New York Jets. But, Michael, first of all, thank you for joining us on Yelling. You're the first guest in Yelling history, so thank you for doing that.
Well, I'm honored. Well, I am honored to be the first guest on this program. So that means I get commission for this, right?
You get a hat. Once we start making hats.
And a year of free waffles.
Maybe a mug or something. I don't care. Whatever you can give me, I'll take it. Why not?
But, Michael, your thoughts on the NBA draft as an institution and also just the NBA grapevine we have to sort through on nights like this?
It's a fun night if you're an NBA fan. Obviously, you're looking at these new prospects coming into the league as the new wave of the future, and you're hoping that the teams that go into it are going to make an immediate impact. For some, it could be a dream come true. For others, it could be maybe just a work in progress. But the teams that are looking at these new prospects coming in for this upcoming season, yet to be seen what they can do. Now we're coming out of a pandemic now. Well, we're still in a pandemic. Let me check that. But they're coming fresh out of college, and they're going to get their feet wet playing pro basketball. So it remains to be seen what they are going to be able to do when they get into the league. But again, if you're a fan of the NBA and your team is the team that's going to be picking up one of these lottery picks, you're excited. But you have to see what happens, though, because we've seen in the history of this draft, it doesn't necessarily mean that because you get a high pick from somebody that they're going to make an immediate impact. There's always been busts, so you're hoping that whoever they draft won't be an immediate bust. It'll be immediate impact.
You know, and it's funny you would say that, Michael, because one of the reasons that I know I wanted to have you on is because you're probably one of the most diverse voices in terms of sports between men's sports and women's sports, NBA, WNBA, and the like. So we know with the WNBA, we have more of an opportunity to see incoming draftees make an immediate impact because of the structure of the game and what's going on. Now with the NBA, I mean, you look at it, what is it? It's like, and I think it's an average of 6 years before a top draft pick and his team makes the playoffs because of what you just said. You know,
Right.
Is the team together? Are they organized? Do they have things together, you know, in order to move the team along? But then what do we see? That player gets to a certain point, what they want, that second contract, that max contract to move on to someone else. So my question for you is, when you look at this draft and you look at now we have people coming out of the G League. There are more European players in the first 2 rounds. More freshmen, more sophomores. Do you see anyone in particular that has caught your eye that will impact their team right away, or do you think it's going to be more of the same of teams are sort of juggling and struggling to sort of maintain some sort of structure to make the playoffs?
I think what you just said, the latter part of that, is going to be more of the same old, same old. And again, as I mentioned, it doesn't necessarily mean that when you get a high draft pick, that player is going to make an immediate impact, because you have to worry about, for one, injuries and how long they can sustain playing an 82-game season, and if they're going to be able to immediately come in there and they're going to be either going to be riding the bench, or they're going to be a starter, or they're going to be a contributor, or something along those lines, where they're going to be worthy of being part of that team. So I don't really necessarily say it's going to be different. It's probably going to be the same thing. And this is a class that, there's some headliners, but not too many headliners. So I think we're going to see that probably in the next class that comes out for next year's draft. Because a lot of the headliners are playing right now in the NBA. This class is coming out right now. Really not anything to be too desired about right at the moment.
And we see Cade Cunningham with the cap on, the first official pick for the Detroit Pistons. And you look at the Detroit Pistons as a franchise that have been pretty maligned for the majority of the past 20 years or so when you look at everything they've gone through after their Larry Brown run. I believe Flip Saunders was the coach for their second NBA championship run, their second attempt at a title. They ended up falling short. A lot of turnover. Detroit sports as a whole has really been taking some solid shots to the midsection for the past 15 years or so. Is there a feeling, I know it's not going to be with Cade Cunningham, but there was some hope, some promise when Stan Van Gundy went to the Pistons along with Blake Griffin. But now you see it kind of in a lull. The Detroit Tigers aren't where they were a few years ago when they had Verlander throwing heat, and now you're in this spot. How do you look ahead if you're a Detroit sports fan? Are you having a lot of hope right now? Is Cade Cunningham a big, bright, shining light for you? Or are you just like, all right, I'm just hoping they don't suck, and I hope the Lions don't suck this year?
If you're a Detroit sports fan, you're hoping that tonight's draft pick, you're hoping that it might manifest into something. That's what you're hoping. What more can you lose at this point, right? You just hit the nail on the head. All the other sports teams are suffering right now, so perhaps this is a beacon of hope for the city that they can root for a team like the Pistons and they get a high draft pick of this caliber that could make the impact that they're looking for. He could be the future of the franchise. He could be right now he could be the face of the franchise, but we have to find out exactly what he's made of when we come to training camps in the fall. But if you're a Pistons fan and a Detroit sports fan, you give yourself an award tonight. You give yourself what they call brownie points, because you're happy that they finally got somebody that they can say, okay, maybe we have something we can work with here for the future. But on the other side, now you have to do more than just one person. You got to build around this individual, and that means they got to work the free agent market, hopefully make some trades, and then who else knows what's going to happen down the pipe, so that they can become a competitor again. So this is a small step towards their ultimate goal, and at least for now, it's a win. But again, we have to see how this manifests to the long term. And if it doesn't, then same old for Detroit fans, huh?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure as a Knicks fan, that does not bother you at all.
Oh man, I'm so sorry.
Listen, my team in the playoffs this year, okay? So I don't have anybody.
Cheers, brother.
We exceeded expectations this year. We weren't even supposed to be in the playoffs to begin with.
I see the shirt. I see the shirt. Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut to my camera now because I don't want that slop on my air. It's my program. I pay for it. Michael Lyle Jr. is joining us here on Yelling. Michael, thank you so much for being with us here tonight as we lean and rock with it. Speaking of rock, the second pick is in for the Houston Rockets, and it looks like we're going to have another big man coming into the city of Houston. It'll be Jalen Green, actually, the guard from the G League, the NBA G League Ignite.
I'm just saying
that's a good pick.
That's a very good pick out of the G League. The G League has produced some great players over the years, too. So you can also look at that league for inspiration for players that are up and coming, and they can immediately make an impact on the next level. So that's a nice pick for Houston.
Wait, Mike, it's funny you say that because, okay, let's talk about it. The G League, for those who don't know, that's the league where, the kids coming out of high school, they don't want to go to college. It's a chance for them to play in an NBA setting, but still remain amateurish, so to speak.
It's like the Major League Baseball version of the minor leagues.
Minor leagues, exactly. Exactly. But I think the most important thing about what's going to happen with the G League is you have players that are learning the NBA terminology, learning from NBA players who were players not that long ago who are up at the modern terminology and the floor of the league. So, they're sort of getting those off the court assets too, how to study film, not just look at highlights, how to sort of position yourself to develop the skills that you need to move forward on the next level. So that's sort of an advantage they're getting that's better than the one and done college player, and perhaps in some cases better than the EuroLeague player who, even though they're playing professional ball in Europe, we know that's not the same brand of NBA basketball we get over here. So I think you're absolutely right.
It's not, but it is also a very helpful league because it's another way of marketing the professional ranks too. Because you look at every one of those teams has a connection to that farm to the professional league of like the parent team. Like the Knicks have the parent team in the team is in Westchester, etc. So it is a good starting point for those kids that come out of college or may not get drafted, maybe have to be developed into playing on the pro level. So yeah, it helps them anyways.
And Michael, when you take a look at the NIL system, I'm looking at the NIL system as a big part of this, and I just want to bring it up right now. This gentleman's outfit, Jalen Green's outfit, Zach brought it up. We trampled over you. But Zach, that outfit, my man, is an outfit and a half and a third.
Tell me that man doesn't win the draft just based on that. Please, I dare you.
But to go back to my larger point, gentlemen, and I want Marvin and Zach's opinion on this too, because to me it's something that's such a huge component of the draft of college sports and basically pro sports in general going into 2021. The NIL system being implemented, we're seeing players from the University of Alabama making $1 million off rip, just for funsies, making $1 million from their local car dealership, just because they play quarterback for the University of Alabama. For these bigger basketball programs, for an Oklahoma State who with the Big 12 basically going bye-bye, the only thing worthwhile about them right now could be their basketball program. When you look at the NIL system, is that a way for them to keep these players, to keep these revenue generators outside of Duke and Gonzaga, the places where for some reason people like staying for 4 years? I went to college for what felt like 8,367 years. Marvin, you have a doctorate to show for it. So for me, it's a really interesting conversation to see how big of an effect is that.
He's flexing now.
Oh, trust me, it's not a flex. It's more like a bend over backwards.
Oh, boy. You earned that, though, so hey, you earned that right, though, so it's all good.
But to that, like, the NIL system, how big of a game changer will it be, and how much will it impact Adrian Wojnarowski being on my television?
Ooh. Oh, Woj bomb. Right?
Yeah, right.
You want to have a Woj bomb every now and then, because he's going to drop the bomb whether it's an NIL or not. I mean, that's his job.
And Woj just dropped a Woj bomb, gentlemen, because the trade is official. There is a big three in Los Angeles. It is Antonio Davis, LeBron James, and Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is now a Los Angeles Laker because it's gonna be fun. October is gonna be fun. For how fun?
It's the AARP game. It's the AARP game.
No, you know what it is? It's the Russell Westbrook is chasing the ring game now. That's what that is. He's chasing the ring.
Yeah.
Come on, let's be real here.
Absolutely.
Why would he be going to Los Angeles with LeBron and AD? He's obviously chasing the ring now. Let's face it.
Absolutely.
And Zach just found this stat for us, gentlemen. Russell Westbrook is the first number one draft pick to be traded in first MVP, pardon me, to be drafted to be traded in 3 consecutive years. I confused myself there. So that's an interesting stat.
Well, first of all, Buckaroo Banzai said it. No matter where you go, there you are.
A Buckaroo Banzai reference in 2021?
I mean,
what?
It's just what it is. But I mean, I tell you what. Okay, I was marginal at best, and I think that's being too nice about it. But if I was a high school kid, and if I were sort of thinking about, okay, my college career might be the last of where I'm gonna go. First of all, got to get your grades right no matter where you want to go. But that would become my job. So that way I would get up my Instagram follow. Instagram, I'm sorry. Matt's been teaching me social media here. So Instagram followers, Twitter followers, Snapchat followers. I'll boost all that up as much as I can. whatever program, whatever college program I go to, I'll bring that with me, make myself marketable to the city, and make a decent living while I get my education for free on the scholarship and still cash in some bank. And if I go to the NBA or if I go to the professional league, fine, whatever, but you're setting yourself up for the next step. And probably more importantly for some of these college cats, and Michael can speak to this being a media professional who sees this all the time. Just like with Matthew, when students, for me as a professor, when students would come in, they had an idea of what they wanted to do. I knew it didn't necessarily mean that's what they were going to do, but at least their ship was pointed in a positive direction. And so if I'm an athlete and I know, okay, I don't have a shot to go to any league, but I can make good money in college, fine. I'll go to Duke. I'll go to wherever. I'll sell barbecue ribs. I'll sign whatever I got to sign to get a check, keep my nose clean, do what I got to do, but plan for when I get that diploma and I walk across the stage and I have no more eligibility left and I'm not going to the league, I can move into an executive at one of the places that I'm working for, still be a representative of the community and still make a check. And I'm telling you, that's going to change a lot for these cats. Because like a Cade Cunningham, quite frankly, I could easily see him with all of his followers on the social media making a good living, good living, just playing college ball and being himself.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game now. I mean, that's what you look at. Mostly from the Power 5 schools, you're going to see this impact, I think. I mean, you'll see it across the landscape, but the Power 5, like you mentioned, the Alabamas, the Dukes of the world, the North Carolinas, the ones that they say are the 5-star recruits, the ones they recruit right out of high school to say, watch out for this individual, he's a 5-star recruit, he's going to be a lottery pick come time for the draft. Those are the ones that are going to capitalize on this NIL rule. They're going to be the ones, and they know, you just mentioned the social media aspect of today's college game, not just college, but high schools. They use these now as their marketing tool. When you have so many followers on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or what have you, that's marketing. You have more people that are watching. You're not even a professional yet, but the fact that people know who you are and that you're being touted as next big thing for the professional ranks, why not? That's going to be the way of cashing in. And then companies are going to come after them saying, hey, can you help us with expanding your visibility to help us grow as well? It's like one hand washes the other almost. Your popularity can help us grow too.
And Michael, I have one more question for you. Seeing what you see, how much now do you think that college athletes are going to start hiring agencies? I mean, I know some of them have already. Some of them are already hiring like PR agencies to handle their social media accounts. Do you think now that's going to trickle down to high school, where a high school freshman who might already be 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", for the basketball or whatnot, they're going to find themselves with sort of like a social media team or management team? Because guess what? If I can make money while I play college, why can't I make money while I'm playing in high school too? My parents can take, you know what I'm saying? I mean, yes, I know it's a slippery slope, but think about it. That's the way this works though, right? Because if you give a mouse a cookie, they're going to want a glass of milk, and that's exactly how it's going to run down the table. So how much do you see these younger athletes hiring media firms and things like that moving into the future?
You just mentioned it, though. It's a slippery slope, and I'll tell you why. Because you're talking about two different levels here. High school, yes, that's where it all starts, because you develop yourself into becoming a great college player on the high school level. Here's the problem, though. You're young. You're ambitious. You can be naive at times, too. So many people out there will want to cash in on your ability to be a great athlete, but here's the other problem. What's in it for them, more for you, though? You know what I'm saying? It's almost like they'll take advantage, if you will, of your ability, of your skill set for their game. And that's where you need guidance from outsiders, like your coaches or your parents, to tell, hey, the agents, listen, I mean, it's great, but we want to have a say on this, too, because he's not really a full-fledged adult yet either, mind you. That's the other thing. High school kids are not really adults yet until they turn 18. At least I believe the legal age is still 18. So, that said,
Arkansas.
Well, okay, I mean, there's some states that, well, Arkansas, okay, so let's use that for example then. Okay, so say that it's Arkansas, for example. Now, you have an agent that comes after somebody that's legal age in Arkansas. But are they equipped enough to understand how this game works? You know what I'm saying? It's real easy to fall into that trap of saying, okay, I'm going to make money But this is where that little trap comes in because you don't know exactly what's in it for you, and sometimes their naiveness will be a detriment because they'll take advantage of that, and you'll find yourself coming up on the short end of the stick because those agents will take advantage and put more money in their pockets as opposed to yours where it belongs. That's why I think this works more on the collegiate level because at that stage, you are an adult. You have been taught the ins and outs of how this works. You've read up, you've done your research, you have people talk to you, and you have people in your ear telling you what you should do and what you should not do, who to watch out for. It's all about growing and learning how this works in the corporate American world now. I mean, it's all about that growth. And I think that when it comes to these athletes, it might be okay for high school in a way, but I just think that's really playing. I just think that it's pretty too risky right now. I think that it would be better if they wait until they get to the collegiate level, where they're now on their own, making their own decisions, and not really having to worry about too many people up in their decision-making process, where they will have to learn the ropes. And then if they fall, they'll understand it and they'll learn from it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. But Michael, you talk about those extemporaneous pressures for people who are younger in high school age. That still has to weigh on them when they're in their late teens, early 20s, especially when you do have that societal issue of a lot of these kids are using this as an opportunity to jettison themselves out of poverty. Does the NIL act as a stopgap for that? Or are these kids continuing to look to the G League or to these boosters to basically say, we need this, we need to get out of here? Is that the bigger problem? Is that the conversation we need to have more than anything?
I think the idea is that they just want to make the money, guys. It all comes down to that. Making an honest living, whether you're playing in the G League, whether you're on the collegiate level using the NIL rule to your advantage, whatever the case may be. They're going to be putting in a lot of sweat, blood, and tears to become professionals. That's the ultimate goal here, I think, before anything else. The NIL rule is great. It's ultimately a stepping stone to become a professional player in the big leagues. And that's where this all comes to play. It's nice to have it in position now while you're young, but you should use it as a training tool to get you ready for that next level, which is the professional ranks. And that's why I say sometimes, I mean, you remember back in the days where it was okay for high schoolers to be drafted into the NBA. Well, that's not the case anymore. That's all changed. This is a new era now. Now you decide you have to get that collegiate experience before you go to the professional ranks. So that's where the NIL rule comes in now, where now you're not only playing in college, but now you get an opportunity to make some money. Because let's face it, I had a discussion with somebody that was on a radio station out here a week ago. The NCAA makes a lot of money off these kids, okay? These major events, March Madness, the college football playoff, these Power 5 conferences make a boatload of money off the backs of these athletes that contribute millions of dollars to what they make. And it's all about their performance on the field or on the court. So I do believe that the kids finally have an opportunity to make it, and they should. They really should. My concern is that I just don't want this to be taken advantage of because, let's face it, there's snakes out there. And there's always somebody out there that's trying to gain somebody's professional or somebody's popularity to their advantage. That's why I hope does not happen in this case.
Yeah, absolutely right. You know, I saw that coach in college, and we'll talk about this with Hassan Duncan later. We had athletes that we got into programs that even the college program, moving up from JUCO to a 4-year institution. Some of the programs, even they were handling their business janky, and it's just I'll tell you what, Mike, you nailed it right on the head, man. And that's why again, mark the tape because I'm telling you, I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong, but I can see somewhere in the next few years because things are catastrophes are moving faster now that we're going to see our first set of high school kids having some sort of lawsuit so they can make money off of their name, image, and likeness at that level even before they go to college because their parents are going to say it or like Michael so aptly said, those shady people in the corner are now have a little more darkness to kind of slide out because the rules aren't set and stable. You can't leave it up to each state and expect for it to be okay. And I'm telling you, my pitchfork, my burning pitchfork is going at the door of the NCAA. The fact that they say, oh, it's about amateurism. People love that more. Oh, well, we'll let each state handle it. It'll be fine. And let's see what's going to happen there. It's going to be chaos, man.
They still make money off it. Doesn't matter. Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't understand that.
Yeah. But you know what? I think it's the game of control. I think it's with NCAA, it doesn't matter what we do or what we don't do. And what a lot of people may or may not realize, the NCAA are the they're the third collegiate organization to come to the table. The NAIA was first.
Right.
You know, the NAIA got pushed out by the NCAA, and that was a pretty. I mean, if you want some nasty, let's go look up some nasty corporate bickering. So read how that went down.
Yeah.
You know,
it
so
got real ugly,
you know,
very ugly.
oh, absolutely. And you know, and it's funny because I believe in that. I believe in part of that call. Like if you look at certain colleges that have sort of rebranded themselves, they got not only pushed out the system, their accreditations were getting threatened. That's how dirty the NCAA was playing to get more people on the set. You know, so you know, there's dirt everywhere, man. And you know, we see that now. I'm sorry, just to catch us up on the draft here. The fourth pick was in. It's Barnes.
Yep.
From Florida State was the fourth pick. Mobley from USC, the center from USC, was the third pick. Again, we're starting to see those players that everybody thought were going to be lottery picks moving into their spot. But then again, you know, we look at how they're sort of positioned, right? And I'm curious to know what you guys think. When I see a scouting report that says a strength is a person being able to make their own shot, but a weakness is they can't shoot. To me, that kind of negates the idea of I love chocolate milk, but I love milk, but I really love milk when I pour some chocolate milk in it. Hey, you really like chocolate milk? That's what we're talking about, you know. So I don't know how you guys feel about those sort of scouting reports, but you see that up and down the board with like the first 100 and whatever players that were consistently thought of being draft picks this year.
Yeah, we're getting too deep into weeds on a lot of this stuff. As a fan of sports and as a fan of human psyches and building it down to the bare bones, it makes a lot of sense and is a lot of fun to kind of look into those intangibles. As Jalen Suggs is going to the Orlando Magic, that is the next pick here on the board. I do want to go to the chat. Shout out to Azian Martin, shouting out in the chat. I believe that's one of the members of the Atlanta Braves fan base that haunts me every single day on Twitter. We've got also I think that's Lee Martin. Hey Lee, how are ya? Dr. Download making his presence felt here tonight on the program. He'll be joining us on the audio line a little bit later, brought to you by My Diminishing Dignity. I think a high school player would be better protected from certain predatory business practices than a college student, though. So that's an interesting perspective on it. I don't know what you guys think on that, but I think
we live in America. Nobody's protected. No offense. I want to believe that.
We're 34 minutes into the show, and Marvin has already denigrated America. God bless this show. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
There's those shady people in the snake. There's those shady snakes in the woods. You know what I'm talking about. They're out there hovering around high school and elementary school ballparks looking for the next kid to make a deal with. I can get you signed and you're a kid. I can hook you up. Come on now. We all dealt with that.
This happens on every major court in America, though. When do we not see this stuff happening? That's just it. You watch these documentaries about how these high school players get recruited, and what do you always see? Somebody's out there scouting them on the playground, playing basketball, and they follow them into high school and beyond, and all of a sudden, here they are now, making it big, and then, of course, all this back talk was, well, here's how it all began, and then, of course, there's some controversy along the way before they got to that stage, and how it all went down ultimately. So it's not, it does happen in America. It's all over the place. If you watch this, you remember the movie Blue Chips?
Yes.
With Nick Nolte? One of my all-time, which people, I don't know why people say that was a bad movie. I think it's one of the greatest
because people are wrong, Michael. People are always wrong.
I think that was one of the best college sports movies ever made, and the all-star cast was phenomenal. But if you remember the ending sequence where Nick Nolte, as a coach, said that, a kid's going to be on the court, there's going to be somebody out there that's going to be helping the rest of America make millions of dollars off his ability to play basketball, and somebody's going to be out there just snaking around, waiting to just pounce on this kid and come with a billion offers of money and all kinds of fame and fortune, and for what? For what? All that just because they want to make millions of dollars for an institution to cash in on their popularity, maybe not so much even getting an education in that respect. Now, let me tell you, I'm a big-time college sports fan, okay? I would actually prefer the college sports over the professional sports. But I talk about this a lot because I think that these colleges can do better with helping these kids get the benefits, not just learning, but they play and make money for them. So why can't they take advantage? Why can't they reap the benefits as well? And I think that's what this NIL law is going to do now. Help them allow themselves to get the opportunities. They're adults now, so they should be able to make money. Why not? If they're popular enough, we have some athletes right here in Connecticut. Paige Beckers of UConn, the women's basketball team, she's already out there doing marketing. So there we go. And I like that it's also becoming more diverse, that women are getting involved. It's not just the men. I love that. I think that's a big plus to this, is that women athletes can also get involved.
Yes.
It's not just the men. And it's happening here right in Connecticut. So there you go.
And that's exactly what I talked about when I talked about the NIL, the segment for yelling. I talked about how the women's athletes, the women, especially women who are more capable with social media, are to take advantage of that and boost up their presence, boost up their income. And to me, that's going to bring them more power and more say and more presence. So then now they can then translate that into running their own industry, running their own leagues, being able to control their destinies without waiting for someone else to make a phone call and say, okay, it's all right to go now. You know, they'll have more pull. They'll have more say. I just think that's going to be great, Michael. I agree with you.
I do. Yep.
And Michael Lyle Jr. joining us from New England Public Media. Thank you so much, Michael. How we could follow you on? We're not letting you off the hook here just yet, but we can follow him on Twitter at Lyle Multimedia. That's Lyle Multimedia on Twitter. Michael, before we let you go this evening, to go back to the comments from Dr. Download, a 17-year-old can't even get a tattoo without parental consent. On your 18th birthday, you get the green light to sign up for hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Obviously, he means that's college. So live rounds from Dr. Download, and then he also agreed. Blue Chips, the best sports movie of all time.
Thank you. I'm glad that somebody finally sees that, and somebody should tell these folks that keep doubting Blue Chips. I'd say, what was wrong with Blue Chips? It was one of the best. It spoke to what's going on today. I think that movie was well ahead of its time for the controversies you saw in that movie that were being played out in front of us that we're seeing in the present. It really was.
Michael, it was too real.
It was very much real. It was art imitating life is what that was. That's what that movie was about. Art imitates life.
100%. 100%. 100%. But I'm so glad you were able to come on and hang with us tonight, my man. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your presence and your voice, my brother.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I hope to be back again. And, hey, you know what? Leave the Knicks alone for one night. We made the playoffs this year. We can enjoy that for once, okay? We can enjoy having our freedom for 1 year at least.
I'm on your side, baby. I know. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay, you're with me, but here's the problem, though. You got Atlanta Braves fan. You know I'm a New York sports fan, right? So you're not rooting for the Yankees. Don't talk about the Yankees right now. I don't want to hear about the Yankees because I know what happened today. I know what the hell happened.
Meet the Mets. Greet the Mets.
No,
still in first place, the Mets.
No, the Yankees and Braves are playing football today. It looked like it was a football score, not a baseball score today. And it was on the wrong end of the Washington Yankees.
Hey, look, they're still in first. Look, I have been a New York Mets fan for 32 years of existence. And if I can just at least once in my life see them win a championship, maybe I won't go to my grave as loud and depressed as I currently am. You guys got 27. The Mets have 2. Can we try to get them a third? A third is, you know what? That's moderate. You can deal with that. And then the Oklahoma City Thunder have just drafted large Josh Giddey, who looks like Josh Groban if you use the taffy puller on him.
The big men getting a lot of love in this draft so far. That's interesting to see.
Absolutely.
The big men are going so far.
Absolutely.
Just not a point guard game anymore. Everybody wants to be a big man, want to shoot and play.
Zach, you look sad over there. What's up, buddy?
Let us hope they play like big men.
Well, that's just it, though. Big men are playing like point guards now. That guys are like 7-for-1 shooting jumpers like they're 6'1" point guards now. And vice versa. Guys are 6'1" playing like centers now. The whole game has changed over the last 10 years, you guys. And it's the truth, though. Look what you're doing. You got guys that look like centers are playing like point guards now. Huh?
You know how I feel about Vlade Divac. As you can tell you, Vlade Divac, me and him one day on the street, me with a trash can, I'm taking him down. He ruined it.
No, he means he wants to fist fight. For those who don't know, he wants to hit.
Yeah, tell us about what's going on with Vlade Divac. Let's hear the story about Vlade. What's going on with you and Vlade?
So here's the
It's
thing.
the Hall of Famer, by the way. Hall of Famer Vlade Divac.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I agree with you 1,000%. Agree with you 1,000%. My thing was a guy that height. To me, he should have been, with his shooting ability, he could have been the next Lou Alcindor. He could have been the next one. Next Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I show my age there. He could have been the next one to sort of bring us to the table with the guy who has those back to the basket moves, the sky hook, all that other stuff, but still be able to step out and drop the basket, shooting the way he did. And to me, he gave us one third of what his game really could have been. I just think he'd have been
He gave you
so
Kobe.
much greater. I just think it would have been so much greater if he would have played a
No,
full
I gotta bring up Zach's in the room. He's across from me right now. He yelled out, "He gave you Kobe." Marvin's not talking about this as a Laker fan. He's talking about this in terms of just being a basketball devotee and just seeing that evolution of the center go to become Vlade Divac.
I see.
What about Tim Duncan, guys? Remember Tim Duncan? Bank shot, Tim Duncan. Remember that shot?
Yeah.
Pull up, bank shot.
Yeah, but you know what? But you know what though? Tim, he had to name the big. Shaq gave him the name the big fundamental for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. That guy, his basketball IQ was beyond Einstein, first of all, and then he was able to sort of being, what was he, 6'11", right? 6'10", 6'11".
6'11",
He
yeah.
sort of was able to play that. Yeah, I know. So he was able to play. To me, he was able to play that sort of in between game. I can be the 5 if you want, or I could be the 4 if you want, because guess what? He also showed that mobility and other things that you needed. And guess what? I don't have to be the 5 when I got the Admiral standing right there doing it minute like he's about to be doing it. That's all.
And Maya Ginobili and Tony Parker, a couple of the names that were out there running around too. So they had the total package of a team, and that Spurs team had a lot of names that made them a dynasty. Absolutely.
True that. Because, I think now, my recollection, that's the first team where I really saw the true mix of what was European professional basketball with traditional United States or American basketball. And I think that's what made them so strong. And give Popovich credit. He was able to sort of let that happen. He let those guys do their thing in his way.
And see, this is why I don't understand why everybody's so upset about the way Team USA is playing at the Olympics right now. Because I had a discussion with this with somebody the other day. Somebody's asking, what's wrong with Team USA? I said, USA they have globalized the sport that we love. You have all these foreign players that are playing against NBA players and against teammates right now in Tokyo. What did you expect was going to happen? You thought they was going to be a cakewalk? This is not the 1992 Dream Team all over again. Basketball has become a global sport now. You got guys playing in countries that are playing against their own teammates that plays in the NBA ranks. So, of course, it's not going to be the same cakewalk in the park.
And by the way, the European leagues have gotten stronger and stronger and stronger
Exactly.
and stronger and stronger. I mean,
Yes.
come on. Eventually, sorry, they're going to catch up. The
It's-
little brothers going to be able to
They
fight
have,
you.
well, that's just, they have caught up, though. That's just it. They have caught up. Over the last 10 years, they have caught up to the USA. That's just it. Team USA had a fall. I think 2004 was the last year they didn't even win the gold. Because why? They caught up with them. It's caught up with them now. It's not the same USA cakewalk in the park anymore with these guys. Now you're playing as teammates and you play with in the NBA. You have to be better. You have to play probably a little more better than they are.
And
Simple as that.
Exactly.
And you take a look at it's going the same road that baseball did. The evolution's just much faster than the global proliferation of basketball is much quicker and much more emphatic than it was for baseball. But it's going to be a point where a majority of the NBA is made up of international players. And I want to go to Zach really quick because his team, the Golden State Warriors, are about to jump on the line. So this is going to be, they're about to dial in. So, Zach, how you feeling over there? How's your anxiety, buddy?
The pick's going to be Jonathan Kuminga.
Jonathan Kuminga. All right, he is the pick.
That's a good pick.
And we have another guest joining us here on the program, right here live on Yelling. We're going to have Hassan Duncan joining us in just a moment here. You are watching Yelling Live, the NBA Draft Special on Yelling and soon to be on Clicks TV. And we got Hassan Duncan joining us right here, right now. Coach, how are you this evening, and what is going on with you in the world? How you doing tonight?
I am blessed. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
I got to say this about my man. Okay, first of all, when you look up warrior in the in the dictionary and the thesaurus and the Rosetta Stone, you're gonna see my man's face. Secondly, that guy right there, he taught me more when I was his assistant coach in basketball in 5 years than I learned from just about every other coach I worked with before that. And I'm gonna ruin it right now. The one thing I love about him the most is the book that he's featured in. I think it was called Inside the Cage.
Inside the Cage.
Inside the Cage, talking about West 4th Street Basketball League, and I think your chapter was back from the Ivy League. Man, that tells you some people have the media presence, and there's a story about him, and some people really live it. And this brother right here, I'm telling you, he really lives it, man. And this guy, we had to have him on, man. How you doing, Coach?
I am deeply humbled. It is so good to see you. It's been too long.
Same here, my brother. Same here. Okay, one quick Hassan Duncan coaching story. So we were in the regionals, and we were the last seed. And I think we were playing, Suffolk was the first seed. And I'll never forget Coach in the locker room screaming out loud, "We're gonna take these guys. We're gonna take their route and have the easy route to get to the Nationals." He was just nothing about basketball. And halfway through his rant, I realized he's not talking to us. He's talking to Suffolk. We take him out. I'm like, that's my coach right there. He knows how to work a room, man. Just the same way he played at Penn, that same Brooklyn attitude, he brought that to Coach, and it was so awesome. So, Coach, what do you see with this year's draft with the mixture of NCAA, the new G League, and the European League players sort of being pushed into this almost post-COVID sort of strata of being able to find a player?
Well, this is a unique year in that it's taken a different turn because you didn't get to see a lot of these players on an everyday basis like we usually do. So the G League was a whole nother thing. The guys who are coming in from the G League, like the guy was just drafted, Jalen Green, we've heard about him, but unless you're an avid G League watcher, you didn't see much of them. So it's unique. You have to do a lot of homework, a lot of research. These guys mix in with the college guys and the COVID and all the defections and the missed games. It was a really tough year. It's going to be tough to assess the talent this year, but they look like they're doing a good job thus far.
Yeah, they're really seem like all the teams sort of are deciding. I believe Michael said this earlier. We're getting big men back in the league again. We're getting the guys. We're giving guys who yes, okay. Cunningham, the exception to the rule, does the 6'8" guy who can also be your point guard, right? That sort of Magic Johnson, Penny Hardaway, whatever thing. But it seems like the rest of these big men are willing to be big men now. So maybe we're starting to see a remelting pot of or I should say, a realignment of the yin and yang of the European game and the American game. Seeing centers of the true fives playing again. It'd be great to see that because I'm partial to that, not being a short guy. But
and I really love Cleveland's pick of Evan Mobley. He looks like he's going to be a tremendous player. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him and how he develops.
And Hassan Duncan joining us along with Michael Lyle. And I am Matt Ryan, joined by Dr. Marvin Williams. It is the Yelling Live NBA Draft Special. Hassan, thank you so much, Coach. We met twice, I think, like over a decade ago when I was the announcer for Kingsborough Community College for the basketball team. And you felt the energy in that gym. When you're playing at that level, when you're coaching at that level, and you're in a championship situation, how do you compare that level of energy to playing in a D1, to basically being on this precipice of something great, something amazing, those unattainable moments that only athletes can really get in modern American society? What does that feel like for you on the bench, and then what it feels for you as a player?
Well, for me, basketball is basketball. No matter where you play, no matter what you do, what level you play at, the game's just for the love of the game. The kids we've had through the years all loved the game. They truly gave 100%. And what we did for them is we didn't treat our program any different than we did, having played a Division I program. So they're going to get the best in terms of preparation, in terms of, preparedness, being ready for the games, practices, getting scouting reports and things like that. That's how we treat it. We treat it first class all the way.
And Franz Wagner, the next one to be picked for the Orlando Magic with a first-class outfit, looking in that 4K like he is about to walk down the runway across the river. The draft attire, like we have evolved. Pro sports, every athlete's always been a clothes horse. Obviously, everyone on this call is a well-dressed gentleman in their own regard. Hassan outclassing us. I wore buttons today, so at the very least, I wore buttons today. First time I think a week.
Hey, Mr. Blanco will be proud of us. Let's just say that. Mr. Blanco will be
that is a poll, Mike. Wow, that is a poll. And there might have been a Golden State trade. Zach, do you have a trade for us?
I do not, but the Sixers, hours before the draft, asked the Warriors for Wiggins, Wiseman, and 4 first-round picks.
For Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, the asking price... the asking price for Ben Simmons is 4 first-round picks, James Wiseman, and Andrew Wiggins.
How unrealistic is that?
Very unrealistic.
The hopium being smoked right now in Philadelphia. Now, we talked about maligned fan bases earlier. Coach, I know you're a New York City guy, so you, much like myself and Michael, are probably a Knicks fan. I don't know if you. I was gonna say I didn't know if you crossed over from the Nets when the Nets jumped. We get it, Marvin. We get it. You have Trae Young. We get it.
With this, Marvin? Jeez.
Why must you hurt us so?
Where's your Trae Young jersey while you're at it?
Yeah.
Where's Trae Young shirt at? Good grief.
No, you got to go a long way for me to put your name on my back.
The first jersey I think he owned, outside of a Curtis Martin jersey, was a Marvin Williams Atlanta Hawks jersey. Not that Marvin Williams, that Marvin Williams.
That's why I got so many followers on Twitter. They all thought I was at Marvin Williams. So a bunch of people followed me, asked me for autographs for jerseys. When I finally said, I'm not that dude, they unfollowed me right away. So I went down to like 7 followers.
So Marvin is trying to play the NIL rule with his own method. He's in the NIL rules for his villains now, right? Playing the game.
Man. Whatever I got to do, brother. Whatever. Taco Bell ain't cheap. Taco Bell ain't cheap, baby.
Well,
right?
So it seems that we're going to have another brother duo in the NBA, as Moritz Wagner is Franz Wagner's brother. So in Orlando, there's going to be 2 Wagners with fantastical names who are probably going to have an easier time getting the Walt Disney World than me. Mainly because I got banned once. I got into a fight with a Pluto.
Nice.
It wasn't Mickey. I thought it was Mickey.
No, it was Pluto. He stepped to my fly girl, so I had to take him down.
Pluto.
Very nice.
Gotta cut you. Gotta cut you. Yeah, that's what it is.
But as we get... Oh, go ahead, Marvin.
I was going to talk about, with especially having like Hassan and Michael here, that, that sort of, how can I say this? The one thing that I love about these 2 gentlemen is they're able to sort of, even though they're fans of the team, they're able to do this a really good overview. So I'm going to go to Michael first and then Hassan. When you look at the state of the transition from amateur ball of any type to the NBA, do you think, again, Michael first and Hassan, do you think when New York basketball is better on the amateur level and the professional level, it makes the rest of basketball better, or has that gone away?
No, it does, because number one, everybody says basketball is the Mecca is right there in New York City. I mean, that's where all the legends were born. You got a lot of historic parks. Rucker Park is there. You got the building, the world's most famous arena is right there in New York City. There's a whole bunch of colleges. A lot of great players from the NBA came from New York in that area to play in the professional ranks. And again, it's the number one market in the country, so obviously you get more exposure when you're playing basketball in that city because everybody comes and sees you. When you're a name, they'll come out there and they see you. You're representing a city that's up 8 million people strong. So they're going to see you, and you're going to represent that entire borough and that entire region. Absolutely, New York stays on top when everybody else is. When the kids are coming out there and they're showing what they can do in that city, you are definitely putting New York City on the map, and that's why I think it's always going to be the mecca for basketball.
Well, I concur in that New York is the mecca of basketball, but what I also realize is that the kids these days are being controlled by these handlers, and it's taking away from how they learn the game. It's taking away from their commitment and dedication to the game. Now it's more working out and things like that. There's no more on the court just basketball, and that's why the rest of the world is catching up. Because we're now focused on so many other things besides just playing the game and just learning the game and playing it the right way. And we were having a conversation about this on a podcast that a friend of mine does. And they were talking directly about this topic, about what's changed in New York City basketball. And we got to hear from some great guys. Lloyd Daniels was on the podcast, a bunch of guys, and everybody was talking about just the changes that have occurred in basketball and why the rest of the world is catching up. Because back when I was coming up playing, if you weren't from New York, no matter where we went, any camp we went to, New York took over the camp. Because we had the best players, we had the most talented players. We had even those who weren't as talented as some of the out-of-staters. The work ethic was greater than any other place.
I agree. And the thing about what Coach is saying, I agree. A lot of these kids right now, I think what he's also saying is that we're living in an age of social media where the fundamentals are now more about just making highlight reels, not so much playing the game, where everybody wants to see you be a YouTube sensation or an Instagram sensation, where we were talking about this earlier, where you get your popularity, all people seeing you do all these acrobatic plays, but it's not fundamentals. And like you're saying, the world's catching up to that because they're learning the fundamentals of how this sport should be played. Not about ending up on SportsCenter every night showing how many dunks you can pull off, or how many different tricks you can pull off just to make it look like you're a great player, when that might be well and good, but come trying to play what the game is supposed to be about, you don't have the skills or the fundamentals to survive, and that's where the problems are right now with this generation.
To speak to that, as someone who's witnessed this evolution from a younger and more fan-centric perspective, it to me comes down to the communication between mentor and mentee, because how these players are communicated, like you could still get those highlights, but if you play great defense, you're able to facilitate more plays for yourself. Is the problem the communication, the delivery system, or these comparisons to other athletes? We're trying to chase that dragon, because for me, I thought that was always there, because I grew up in the Jordan 90s. I grew up in the Kobe era, the proto-YouTube era, the And1 mixtape era, to where people were trying to replicate that on New York City basketball courts. We had members of the LDS playing over at Sunset Park Court trying to get on, and they were hustlers, man. Like, they were some hustlers over on Sunset Park courts. Those Mormons know how to ball. But for me, it comes down to the communication and how these players are developed and curated in terms of just being told, like, men, hey, you want to make the most money, these fundamentals are going to be the thing that get you there. If you can shoot from the arc, if you can shoot from half court, that's what you got. And this coming in for Dr. Download, this is an interesting part of it too. The number one killer of New York's basketball greatness, gentrification. That's an interesting part of it. Because Dr. Download, myself, we both lived through gentrification as born and bred Brooklynites. And this coming in, just to pause real quick, the Dodgers are about to get Max Scherzer and Trea Turner from the Washington Nationals. The trade that was going to happen with the Padres has been kiboshed, and the Dodgers are going all in to get Trea Turner and Max Scherzer. So it is an interesting night across sports. But let's get back to the gentrification conversation. Before we... Why do you have a magnifying glass? Are you Carmen Sandiego? Do you work for the Acme Detective Agency? Are you a member of Rockapella? Which one are you?
I can neither confirm nor deny. Yeah, that's it.
The NOS just got interesting is what that means. The NL West is
Yes.
probably going to be a Dodgers. It's going to be the Dodgers again for that man. Is what this means. Their pitching now just got better with Max Scherzer on the roster. It's going to be ridiculous now. That's what that means.
But
Absolutely.
to get Trey Turner on a day-to-day basis in their lineup is amazing.
That's pretty bananas. But to go back to this gentrification conversation really quickly, we've seen the evolution of Brooklyn and New York sports and just the evolution of New York in general. Is gentrification a part of that? We saw that, in the Tekashi 6ix9ine documentary, it's not a one-to-one comparison, but we saw the effects of gentrification and how that played a part into the development of the 6ix9ine character, playing into those things to create a larger conversation and basically create this troll identity. Does that gentrification come into it as well for basketball? Has that negatively affected PSAL and, CUNYAC and these other parts of New York sports to where they are lacking, as we talked about before? They used to run the courts. We had the King brothers, for God's sake. We had Hassan Duncan going to Penn. We had some of the best ballers in the world, but now we're lagging behind. I don't even know the last great New York high school prospect. It could have been not Taj Gibson, because he was back when I was in high school, but how does that play a factor into it, gentlemen?
Well, Coach, I'll let Coach take this one because he's more familiar with that area. I'm in Connecticut, so I think Coach might have a better blueprint on this than me.
Was that me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I believe that it does play a role to some degree, but more so it is just the lack of focus for me. I can't get away from that. Like, guys are too focused on other things. I mean, gentrification does have a place in it, but the focus isn't there. The dedication and commitment isn't there. The biggest part for me in terms of the game and the changes the game has made is the advent of the stretch 4 and 5. Like, what happened to the post players? What happened to the post play? Like, the game has changed so much. Like, there's no real space for a traditional big. Like, if you're not able to knock down a three, then you're no good to a team. Shaq would be mortified playing in this day and age.
But does that play into the evolution of the sport as much as anything? And this coming in from Dr. Download, who's doing research on the fly, New York has not been in the top 5 regions of producing NBA talent in at least a decade. California, Texas, Florida, Alabama, and Georgia have been the states outperforming this region of basketball. And it could come down to just athleticism, just pure, like, the development of athletes. Your California, Texas, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, all college hotbeds, all college sports hotbeds. And high school sports is taken way more seriously there than it is up here in New York. I know my generation, the class of 2007, were fairly apathetic to high school sports. And New York is not a college sports city. It's not a college sports region. Once you get out into New Jersey, once you get into Connecticut, obviously it becomes a bigger and bigger conversation.
Yes,
but as someone who went to NYU, the team spirit, the care, the that feeling isn't necessarily there unless you go to Columbia, and even then, it's kind of hit or miss. So it could be that. I'll toss to you, Marvin, in 1 second, but I think it's that motivating factor. These college hotbeds, being able, some of the top trainers in the world are going there. The camps that are there for those players, that's got to be a huge factor in all of that.
I'm gonna be me for a minute. I'm gonna go dark. Okay.
No.
So, look at what's happening in New York, kind of connecting the two thoughts from Coach and from Dr. Download, and even from how, Michael talked about Connecticut, right? What's the biggest difference when you start moving people's ability to go someplace? Not just live someplace, but go someplace. You're removing access. So, in New York, where I might have had a bunch of areas where I've had outdoor courts at one particular point, they're not basketball courts anymore. Now you're starting to see the growth of the soccer leagues out on Long Island, or as she was very beautiful would say, Long Island. Where you go out there and you see 95 soccer games being played at the same time on the same field. You see in lacrosse. But again, it's all happening on the island. When you come back into the city, it seems as though every single corner that might have once had a basketball court or at least had a basketball goal now has a Starbucks, a Chase Bank, or like some, janky tattoo shop. So
They are fairly
that,
janky. I will
you
say
know,
that.
so like, for me, that whole deal where I look at what coach is talking about, I see players now at that age who will do what? They will look at the highlights or look at those things. I want to be that. I want to be that guy. What's up, Tug?
Hey, what's going on, man?
You money? They want to be that guy. They want that instant whatever, but not put in the work like coach's generation, where you didn't get on the court until you proved you could play. You proved you could handle a pick and roll. You proved you could prove you could pass. But if you go out there and just jank up the rock, you're off the court in a heartbeat, because they didn't like him because he brought that New York street. This is how we play ball from the standpoint of this, not just this to be seen. He brought that to the table, and they weren't used to seeing that aggressive, high level, high basketball IQ sort of game being played on that level. And while I'm in this, we're going to welcome Tug Cowart, a guy, I'm going to give him a big shout out too. Probably one of, Michael Lyle is probably one of the most diverse sports voices I think you would hear in today's media. Tug Cowart, I think, takes that diversity past sports into another level. I'm going to kick your tires because I know you're not. When COVID first hit, when Tug was working at, I forgot what radio station, I apologize, but I was listening to him every day. He did a podcast on COVID, Just the Facts, I believe. Is that correct, sir?
That's right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was probably one of the most educational pieces at the start of the pandemic that in my heart, I believe was out there, because for reasons that we can't really talk about, I was following it along because of what my Coast Guard unit was doing and things like that. But he was one of the few voices that we were tuning in what was happening on the other side of the fence. He laid it down every single week in a very, very powerful manner. And what I appreciated about him, as with everything that he does, being a humble man, being man of faith, what he does, he was not afraid to say, you know what, we might have missed that one. Let's go back and do that again, and then tell you this is what's up. And to me, for a guy who can talk sports, football, basketball, and the whole nine, talk about the idea of the athlete's mentality, their mindset, their social positioning, and then on top of that, my favorite thing, he talked about country and Western music.
That's right.
So when you were talking about this, Matthew, that's why these guys were top of my list, because we can go get somebody who can talk NBA, this, that, U League, G League, R League, P League, whatever, this many rebounds, whatever. I wanted cats who are smart, who knows how the game works, not just on the court, but in the real world. Something that you don't have to be an NBA fan to listen to us. And so, Tug, thank you for completing my wish list tonight. Guys, thank you so much.
You're far too kind, man. I appreciate all the kind words, but yeah, it's just a pleasure to jump in with you guys tonight. So I hope everybody's doing well. What are you all talking about?
We were at the moment talking about gentrification's impact on New York City basketball, but let's talk about something a little more fun. Talking about the world of sports right now. Matt Ryan joined by this lovely quadrant of human beings. We got Dr. Marvin Williams in the top left. We've got Michael Lyle to his right. Below him, Hassan Duncombe. And just joining us from 980 The Fan down in Atlanta, an actual radio person unlike me. I'm just a loudmouth jabroni, Tug Cowart. Tug, thank you so much for joining us. Another Georgian on a day where my New York Metropolitans got Bismack Biyombo'd in front of God and everybody.
Well, look, those Mets still have what, a four game lead on the Braves.
I'll take it.
Yeah. So even though the Braves took 3 of 5, it's still, the Mets still look like they're in pretty good shape, and then in the driver's seat, the Braves are still stumbling and fumbling around.
Yeah, that's gonna happen. I'm a Met fan. There's no hope.
I was gonna say, Matt's probably used to this. Matt's used to having the Mets always make their, they can break their heart in any given moment. That's
It's
why-
July,
Yeah.
so they're
Right.
not doing. They're doing what I would hope for them to do in July. But as someone who watched Armando Benitez pitch too many times in my life, I've got no hope. I've got no hope. I am waiting until October 2016. The Kansas City Royals. Stephanie Sotilli in the peanut gallery on the other side of the glass.
Never be royal.
I know. She picked the Royals in 2015, and then all of a sudden in 2016 picked them again when the New York Metropolitans, for only the second time in my life, made the World Series, and once again jobbed out in front of God and everybody.
Going to Vegas. Very soon.
I was surprised you didn't mention anything about 2007 yet, Matt, because I didn't remember what happened.
I remember 2006. I remember very clearly standing in my kitchen in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, in my tenement apartment,
Had that division locked down, and all of a sudden,
Watching-
they choked it away.
watching Carlos Beltran with my mother just getting home from her job, pre-beer, getting ready to see a full count. We saw the Andy Chavez catch. There was hope. There was so much possibility in the air. And then, Carlos Beltran, that trash can banging son of a bitch,
Wow.
strides to the plate,
Okay.
Wow.
taking the contract of all contracts. We could have given
I tried to warn you.
if Fred Wilpon would have just given A-Rod the luxury suite, get some of that Bobby Bonilla money deferred for another 3 years. Bring me the Bonilla picture.
Oh, no.
Morgan, bring me the Bonilla picture.
Bobby Bonilla will get his money no matter what happens. That's
Right,
all
that's
I'm
true.
Hey, Bobby,
He's got that
Bobby's
locked
got
down.
the best arrangement I've ever seen in my life.
It's not even the best one.
Ever.
Griffey's getting paid forever. But back to my story. Thank you.
This is how I met Matt, by the way. He was a student in my
Thank you.
class.
Thank you. Bubbles to calm me down. Bonilla to infuriate me. I carry a Bobby Bonilla framed photo. I'm putting this on the full screen. Bobby Bonilla framed photo in my home. If you have watched this show, you know that. If you've watched me at any point, you know that. I accidentally cut over to Hassan, but to go back to this for a second. Full count. Full. I can swear on this show, so I'm going to. Full fucking count. 3 and 2.
Wow. The daggers are out.
Yeah.
All he has to do.
This is a true Mets fan talking right now because the
Yeah.
fact that he's saying he's a passionate, true, diehard Mets fan who knows the game. That's why you don't hear him so giddy right now because, like you said, it's July. We're not even in September yet. Anything can happen between now and September and October. And all of a sudden, here we are talking once again. How in the hell did the New York Mets let this happen?
I'm hurting as he recounts this story.
All he had to do was swing the bat. That's all he had to do. And then Yadier Molina, who until this day,
You put him in
July
time.
29th, the
You gotta
year
let
of
the
our
song play.
They just let him get it out. Let him get it out.
the year of our Lord 2021,
Clearly.
still playing baseball.
Backstory, fall semester, introduction to mass media class. He sits in the front row. He's great every day, always answering questions, asking questions. And the day after that happened, he comes in with his hair on fire. And I said, okay, I need to go counseling for this kid.
That's right.
I had an idea what was going on, but then when I finally looked at the news, oh, I know what happened last night.
Yeah, that's so funny, man. We just watched last night we watched the first episode of Ted Lasso. Have you guys seen that show, Ted Lasso?
It's my favorite show on television right
Oh,
now.
it's-
I've not watched
it's the
season
best.
2 yet, but it's worth the Apple TV subscription. They don't
Oh,
give
yeah,
us any
yeah.
money, but yeah.
Yeah, no, right, no, I get that. But so we watched the first episode, in the first episode of season 2, and I'll just give you the season. I won't tell you what happens, but they bring in a counselor for one of the players. It's almost like we're seeing this play out in real life. Like that's Apple TV. we needed to get you some help, man.
Absolutely.
Shout out.
Type stuff.
That's right, my man's hurting.
Shout out to Kate O'Brien, my therapist. Next week's gonna be a fun time.
You know, as a Yankees fan, I take great pride in listening to the Mets go in misery right now, though. I just gotta tell you. It just makes me really happy. As bad as the season as the Yankees are having right now, I'm actually happy with Matt going off like this. It takes the pressure off the Yankees being really bad right now. And we can just sit here and just say, hey, welcome to the club.
Not when you live with the Yankee fan. Not when you live with the Yankee fan.
My wife's a Yankees fan, so I get it.
We're married to the same woman.
Yeah,
The door is locked. The door is locked.
My wife's from upstate New York, and I'm from Northwest Georgia. We met while I was in the military, but different story for a different day. But yeah, huge Yankees fan. So she's struggling right now.
At least your wives are Yankee fans. My wife is just anti-Mets. She doesn't
just
like
anything but the
baseball.
Mets.
She just gives me a hard time about the Mets.
I had this
Okay.
idea.
Mets fan too?
I had this idea that we're gonna do as a bit at some point on Yelling. I want to do sports speed dating, and see what happens. Just
I'm
a quick.
Giants fan, my ex was a Cowboys fan. What does that tell you?
Oh,
Go figure that one.
Oh, man.
Any of your children would have been Eagles fans, just to balance out the
No,
karma
no,
there.
no,
Just
no,
a quick update. Zaire Williams to Memphis, James Bouknight to Charlotte, and Josh Primo to San Antonio. Josh Bouknight from Brooklyn just getting drafted, undermining my point, Dr. Download says, as he laughs at himself from his Cave and Rock, Illinois.
That's the same book from UConn, correct? That's the same book from UConn?
I believe so, yeah.
Yes.
And that's a win for us tonight here in Connecticut that we
There
can
you go.
celebrate.
And Terry
Those are
Frank
the ones
and Terry Francona's stepping down from
Exciting health issues.
from the Cleveland baseball team. A big move.
Right.
The Guardians. We might as well just start calling them the Guardians. And we got a video right now. If you haven't already subscribed here on WorldwideLeaderSports.com. Thanks for joining us on WorldwideLeaderSports.com. Check out the new video made by Dr. Download with his spin, his remix of the Cleveland Guardians announcement. 100% less Tom Hanks, which may not be a bad thing if you actually watch the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and yeah, he is from UConn. I am Matt Ryan. I am joined by these tremendous individuals. We've got Hassan Duncan. We've got Dr. Marvin Williams. We've got Michael Lyle, and we've also got Tug Cowart from the studio. It seems. Tug, are you just pulling an all-nighter there over there?
No, I'm at home.
Oh, look at you, a fancy home
These
studio.
Are professionals. These are professionals. See, that's a studio. Mine's supposed to be a studio. It's been used as a studio, allegedly. I can't account for what's in the closet there, so don't ask about that. We're not talking about that.
Do you play the instruments behind you?
Yes, I do. I'm finally working on another record. Finally,
Finally.
And you can see behind me, you see what's on my wall here. You see Bruce Lee's is right behind me here on my wall.
Hey, nobody's messing with you.
I'm jealous. You know what? You know what, Tug? Tug, I have a direct question for you.
Yeah,
So, your view of the sport, and it was really interesting because when I reached out to you, you wrote me back, I don't really do the NBA, blah, 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 whatever. I said, no, I don't want that. I want your brain. And this is why, for this question right here. So, for those of us who sort of, Michael Lyle lives in the sports world. I mean, inside and out, men's side, women's side, college side, the whole nine. Coach Hassan Duncan is the sports world. I mean, he's been a guy on the sideline, on the court, the whole nine. He still follows the game like in a super micro level.
Nice.
For you as someone who, I mean, okay, you're in the popular world with country music. You know, you're in the world that talks about sort of all of the other things. How does that world look at like the NBA? And I don't mean necessarily like the social protest. I'm not talking about that.
Sure.
I'm talking about how does that world see the NBA as a league, a part of sort of the fabric of this country, and does it even think about what's happening with the draft, or do they just kind of wait for the season to start?
You know, in Atlanta, it's funny. The Hawks. I mean, everybody's a Hawks fan. You know, the listeners that we have at 101.5 here in town, Everybody cheers. That's the funny thing about Atlanta. It's a very good sports city because everybody loves the Hawks. I mean, I've been going to Hawks games. I'm born and raised here. I've been going to Hawks games since I was a little guy when it was, Dominique and Doc Rivers and Spud Webb and John Concack and Tree Rollins. So I grew up a Hawks fan. I didn't know that there were people that didn't like the NBA. And I guess it's more like, being in the Deep South, it's always college football first. That's everybody's. So it's always Braves. Braves is kind of the envelope that everybody cheers for. At least folks that are born and raised here. I mean, in Georgia. So you have that's kind of the starting point is college football and baseball, and those are the two biggest, at least in my view. And then, but everybody loves the Hawks and the Falcons too. So the one thing that's interesting about Atlanta is that it's such a transient city that so many people that move here bring their own teams, right? So there's a little bit of I feel like it's a little bit of a misnomer that Atlanta fans don't keep up with the teams. It's more that we have so many people from so many different places that will pack out the arena, yet they're cheering for somebody else even though they live here, which is a little bit frustrating to me. I struggle with that a little bit, but it is what it is. Atlanta's a great city, and we got so many great folks from so many great places that's if there's a negative, that might be it. But yeah, like my son is a huge Hawks fan and a huge NBA fan. He keeps up with the league much like you're describing in such detail. As a matter of fact, he's watching the draft right now, and so I think a lot of people around here are very much like that, and it's because I do so many different types of shows, from country to sports talk to news talk and financial talk. I do a legal show with a couple lawyers here in Atlanta. So it's hard for me to drill down on anything because I'm always reading about everything.
Well, if I can ask you this one question, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, Michael, go right ahead.
I just wanted to ask this one question. I've heard about this a lot. Now, is it true that most fans, especially for football's sake, that they would rather go to UGA games more than Falcons games down there? Is that true?
A million times over, yes.
Yeah.
Why is that?
So growing up, so let's go back. I guess we can go back historically. I mean, college football has been played in the South since like the late 1800s. The Falcons didn't come to Atlanta until 1966. So I mean, it's just people have been born and raised watching college football. I mean, every generation has watched college football, and it wasn't until '66 that people started watching pro football. I got to tell you, man, we didn't really, as a family, my family, we watched the Braves and the Bulldogs. I mean, I remember I could go get it upstairs. I still have it. The Coca-Cola bottle that says the 1980 national champions, Georgia Bulldogs. So I've been looking at that Coke bottle since I was born. I was 3 years old when Georgia won the national championship. So it's the only thing I've ever known. I love the Falcons. When the Super Bowl run came, and it was amazing. My wife was very kind and got us tickets. Me and my son went to all the games leading up to the Super Bowl except for the Super Bowl. And we had a ball. But in comparison to my love for the University of Georgia's football program, it's non-existent almost when it comes to the pros.
And you know what? If I can add on one thing, here's what I can tell you about Georgia football. How about that?
How about that?
Like that. Love that, don't you? No, but no, seriously though, when you look at the history of college football, people forget how important the Ivy League schools were.
Yeah, that's right.
Princeton and Brown. But when you look at who they played outside of the Ivy League, the first big school that you see on those old school calendars, those old school programs, is the University of Georgia.
That's right.
I mean, the school was founded in 1785. Started playing football probably 2 weeks after that. It's just amazing to me how much. It's amazing to me how much like the University of Georgia, and I sort of knew it before because I was kind of recruited by Georgia, but I didn't really know until I went back for a grad program and I really started getting into like what was going on at the University of Georgia. And I would hear these old heads talk. You go down to like the Circle K, and there's like an old head sitting outside, like, trying to get that, like the air jack to work. And they started talking about Georgia football in 1947 and the year they had to stop halfway through the season because of the war. And they started to use stats. Oh, we had this quarterback we had then, Billy Joe Ray Bob, Chip Bob Gold. He could throw the ball. And Michael, I'm telling you, man, it is like, truly, it's like professional sports.
It's an institution down there, basically, is what it is.
It is. No, you're right.
Absolutely.
I don't-
100%.
I don't root for many college football players or college football teams. I technically root for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish because look at me as a person. But
Be the mascot.
I think I tried out once. I made it to like 5th. I would get a Billy Ray Joe Bob Schmemley jersey, Marvin. I would get that right now because that just sounds to me like the jersey du jour. Like I will root for whatever media market pays me. That's where I'm at right now at the age of 32. With the exception of my teams, I will root for the Seattle Kraken if I need to.
Hey, there you go.
Stephanie Sotilli, who's on the other side of the fake glass, is a Vegas Golden Knights fan because they were just cool.
Vegas born. So good. Walk all the pucks.
We did a show. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I got to out my girl. We were doing a new version of Gotta Say It, and we moved it to something else, right? And we were trying to find a team for Stephanie to like. And so it was hockey season. So, everybody's making their pitch. I'm making a pitch for the Rangers. Blah, 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 whole nine. So finally one day she shows up at the studio and she says, I'm going to go with the Vegas Golden Knights. So I'm waiting for this. And she's really intelligent and really she really gets into details of why she likes something or doesn't like something, which what makes her amazing. So I'm waiting for this really big, in-depth dissertation on why the Golden Knights are going to be great. She says, they just look cool.
Dude, but I think a lot of people choose teams based on what the team colors are or whatever it is. I like the mascot. I mean, I think it's funny, man, because my wife being from upstate New York, she when she moved down was definitely more of an NFL, a pro teams fan. She grew up watching football with her dad. Her dad's a Giants fan, so she chose the Patriots just to be able to have somebody to pull against her dad with, so it would just be fun to watch, right? So I always thought that was cool until the Patriots beat up on the Falcons. Different story altogether. But
28-3.
As someone named Matt,
I'm
I'm named Matt Ryan, bro. How do you? Every interaction I have had since 2008, I think back when he was in Boston College. It's like, oh, the quarterback, right? Yeah. I have a better playoff winning percentage, but that's beyond the point here.
Our very first show was Matt Ryan and Marvin Williams. People were trying to figure out, wait a minute, they're in New York. Why is it a Matt Ryan Marvin Williams show? Because Marvin Williams had just got drafted. Matt Ryan was playing. It was crazy.
And this is a backdoor pilot for us to do overnights in Atlanta Talk Radio. So if there is a station that just wants this Schadenfreude on their airwaves, hit me up in the DMs at MRyan Consulting or at We Are Yelling.
Maybe we can just get a podcast to start or something.
Well, you know what? Hey.
Put a podcast and put it on. Because we have a little podcast network down in Atlanta called the Podcast Park, and we're starting to add shows. It's funny because we're talking about college football. That's kind of the focus of the push right now is to add guys that are in market like Tuscaloosa and Clemson and Columbia and but Auburn or wherever. And so maybe the next phase we can roll you guys in, talking a little bit about everything.
Yeah, well, that's what we're here at Yelling. We are the pro sports variety show. We're like if WFAN, BuzzFeed, and Conan O'Brien had a pie fight. I can't wait for the listeners of Atlanta to meet Danny White. Danny White will be joining us here on the program tonight. If you're not if you've not watched my show on SB Nation alongside Brendan Sokler and Stephanie Sotilli and Shaquille Majori, Danny White is not Dana White, the owner of the UFC. That would be illegal. We would get sued, obviously. But Danny White is a big fan, and I am a big fan of the fact that he bought a tux for tonight. It is draft night. It is a night of sartorial splendor. You know, we all got dressed up. I've got my ice cream shirt. Hassan has the beautiful shirt his wife picked out for him. Marvin has the attire that offends me in a numerous amount of ways. Michael looking club ready, and Tug looking. I'm not saying this is an insult, but you would win a Pat McAfee lookalike contest. I'm not trying to fumble the bag here with being on Podcast Park, but I'm just saying there's a suaveness to you, my friend. But when we talk about,
well, you're kind.
well, you know,
You're kind.
we New Yorkers are not unkind.
Like
No,
I said,
look,
Mr. Blackwell will be
I'm
happy
New
to
York,
see
I know
us.
that.
Mr. Blackwell will be happy. He will be very happy with us right now. Mr. Blackwell would give us a lot of praise right now, as opposed to any other
That's right.
celebrity that doesn't know how to dress.
This coming
And
in.
by the way, Hassan, you're gonna appreciate this. Chris Duarte, he was drafted by the Indiana Pacers from
Right.
the Dominican Republic. So imagine this guy's life, right? And I say this
Yeah.
because from your heritage, he goes from the Dominican Republic to Oregon to play this college ball. Which we know Oregon and Dominican are just alike.
Oh yeah, Portland, and Santo Domingo, like nothing.
Not sister cities?
And now he's in Indiana.
Oh, let's go to Zach real quick on the other side of the glass. Zach, what do you have for us in some of the picks we've had so far tonight? What are some of the things we have seen during Tankapalooza 2021?
I believe since last time we spoke, as Marvin just mentioned, Duarte was taken 13th. The Warriors, after Moody slipped all the way down to 14, raced and got him. So I'm ecstatic about that. The Wizards are taking Corey Kispert with the 15th pick. They're about to announce, and somehow, some way, Algernon Sengun, do I have that right?
Sagan.
Sengun, yeah. He has fallen down, and I'll be shocked if Oklahoma City passes on him.
And maybe the New York Knicks might be able to get him.
Maybe
What are they at, like 20? I forget where the Knicks are drafted.
19 and 21.
18 and 21. All right, so we got a shot.
19 and 21.
19 and 21. Ah, those were very forgettable years.
1938.
Yeah, baby.
1938. So you know what? And it's funny. I'm so glad we have these voices here because one of the things we were saying earlier in the show, Tug and Hassan, was that these teams are using. You know what's funny? I don't believe Michael was with us yet. These teams are using draft picks as sort of ATM cash cards to fix their current salary cap issue. So you see these crazy trade proposals of, this one guy for these 5 guys or this guy for cash considerations because everybody's trying to find a way to balance their books, right?
Sure.
So when I was looking up stuff for the draft, and I'm kind of curious of you guys' thoughts on this. The second round, the draft in the second round, which we won't be on air for, but all but 3 draft picks in the second round have been moved through at least 3 teams.
Jeez.
And I actually started doing my Coach Duncan was seeing me do this whenever I'm doing stats for our team. I do these crazy Venn diagrams of where the shot came from and this, that, and third, whatever. I started doing that, and I even got sick of myself trying to figure out, well, this team was 34, but they traded that spot back to get this cash and this player, so they traded back to 49, but then they traded back to 33 and gave them this. So I started realizing it looks to me like everybody's lost money, right? But some kind of way through the IRS system, whatever they're doing, it makes sense, I guess. And so I guess my question to everybody is, and again, I'm gonna go back to what Michael said earlier. All these teams are sort of same old. We're trying to find a way to fill our team, make sure our checks don't bounce, and make sure we have something together. And if we get a face in the process to sell tickets, sell T-shirts, we win. But what does that mean for the outsider who's not so like Tug's son, who's NBA into it? For the regular person who won't look at the league unless it's interesting, what does that kind of minutia financial movement kind of do for the presentation of the league, in you guys' opinion? I guess I'll start with Michael, and then we'll go to Tug, and then we'll go to Hassan.
Oh, I think you touched on this earlier. That I think this is all about, just like you say, keeping their books balanced, You hope the drafters, you hope the players they get are going to help make the team better. I mean, I think that's what the grand scheme of this is all about, right? Eventually making the team improve, and who knows, maybe using them as bait to get some better players. You just said that, so I agree with you out the gate.
Too much. It's just too much to try to keep up with unless you're so invested in it that that's something either A, you love and that's your passion, or B, it's your team and that's how you keep up. I think most people just generally watching, they don't care until the guy gets out there and starts blowing it up like Trae Young did.
Good point.
This very scenario here is why I'm watching so intently the draft right now, because I'm hoping the Atlanta Hawks trade Cam Reddish to the New York Knicks because they're trying to get rid of him to save some money down the line.
Right, which is tough.
So I'm counting on it.
Yeah, look, it could happen.
Zach's got a question for you, Coach, about that. Zach, what was your question?
You're hoping for that? I understand that the Hawks want to restart one of their rookie contracts and kind of restart the cycle because they will have to pay either Hunter or Reddish, but...
That's right.
Really?
Well, it's two things, two elements to this. One, I happen to be a huge Duke fan. Two, I think the kid's going to turn out to be a marvelous player, and he showed it in the Game 6 against the Milwaukee Bucks.
Against the Bucks, yeah.
So I truly think he can develop. And the third point of that is we'd have two Duke players, and they'd want Zion Williamson to come on over after that.
Are you talking from a Knicks perspective or a Hawks perspective?
He's talking from a Knicks perspective.
I could care less.
From a Hawks perspective.
Pay attention.
That makes sense.
You're paying you to produce this show, sir.
I am on Twitter making sure that we get the picks in.
Oh, okay.
The Rockets are taking my guy at 16, so let's go.
Why are you excited?
I have been on the 5-hour bus ride. I've been on the 5-hour bus ride with Hassan Duncan talking about what's coming up for March Madness when we're heading up for regionals. He's got no computer, no internet on the phone, nothing. And he's up there rambling off guys' names, stats, colleges, and this guy went to this high school. He's almost like he's almost like King CFB, right? He's like, but except for his college basketball. This guy with this high school, he played with this guy, coached him, blah, blah, blah. He wears this size underwear and this size shoes. I mean, it was just like watching a magic trick. It's crazy.
No, it's cool.
So he's like the Mel Kiper of college basketball.
Oh, that's why we have this group of 5 right here. That's why we have Zach and Steph in the studio. We've got Dr. Download. We've got Joe Blair in the chat. Saying the sound pulled a John Starks for a second, but it's back now. I don't like the John Starks slander, Blair, and when you come up here from Chattanooga, we're fighting.
1994 all over again. Please don't.
Let's not talk about that.
Please.
Less said, the better. The Washington Wizards are about to pick.
Yeah, we're way behind.
Yeah, the Washington Wizards are
We've
about to
known
make
this
their
pick
pick.
for 10
Yeah,
minutes now.
with the 15th pick, Corey Kispert, looking like he belongs on the Gossip Girl reboot with the woman to boot. Is the next pick for the Washington Wizards.
I thought they were trying to trade that pick. I really thought they were trying to trade the pick. That's why it was taking so long.
Yeah, no, they made it happen. That is the 15th pick in tonight's NBA draft. You got something, Zach? What do you got?
It took long to announce because they were honoring
Yeah.
Terrence Clark.
They were honoring Terrence Clark, the player from Kentucky who passed away, which is what caused the delay. Dr. Download saying that John Stark's line hit him right in the childhood. That also hit me in the childhood, not as much as that Carlos Beltran one.
I cried that night when he missed all those shots in Game 7, okay? So I know the feeling.
Oh, I never punctuated the Carlos Beltran story.
Oh, boy.
Well, let's go
As soon as that game ended, I walked, I stomped into my room, cursing the entire way. I'm 17 at the time, so this makes sense. I come in and I go into my room, I slam my door, and I start playing "Gimme Back My Bullets" by Lynyrd Skynyrd for 45 minutes on a loop, just loudly, because I could not process emotionally for the first time in my life at that age, seeing my team get to that point, because I had watched in my childhood the Mets get pummeled by the Braves, destroyed by the Yankees in the 00 series, and then the Giants rolling over and dying against the Ravens, and the year after that, 2 years after that, the Raiders rolling over and dying against the Buccaneers. So at this point, sports-wise, not fun for your intrepid host, Matt Ryan. But I did get to go to the Rangers Stanley Cup parade, so it did balance out a little bit. But yeah, there was a lot of angry tears that night in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, when Carlos Beltran did not swing that fakakta bat.
Man,
that's why I keep all these quarters, because once you put in a quarter, you gotta let the whole song play, no matter how long ago it got recorded.
This coming in from Dr. Download in the chat. I was well in the tank as Reggie, being the GOAT until Ray Allen. And now here comes the fun conversation on the sports talk show that's always happening. The greatest of all time. We're actually about to launch an initiative here. Hold on. Here's the fun part. I'm inviting you gentlemen to join Rex Walters, the former coach, assistant coach for the New Orleans Pelicans, former first-round draft pick in the NBA. Tariq Tazghini, the head coach of Ernest Wingate High School in Brooklyn. Myself, Dr. Download, and Marvin to create the greatest NBA roster of all time. You can go at any point in history. In the entire 75 years of the National Basketball Association, you can draft Jalen Rose's suit, you can draft Chase Cunningham, you can draft anybody you want from any period in history to create your ultimate 12.
I can tell you right now there's going to be a debate about three of them out the gates, and I think you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Three names out the gates, and two of them actually have been going back and forth for the last, decade plus now?
So
you guys know one of them.
So Ronnie Cycli,
Ronnie Cycli.
I know who mine is. Look, I know who mine is, and oh, by the way, those two guys are not on my list.
That is true. They are not on Marvin's list.
Right after,
Wait a minute. LeBron James and Michael Jeffrey Jordan are not on your list?
No, sir.
Really?
No, sir.
See what I mean?
No.
Right.
You're going to trigger some people.
No,
I don't know
with
how you
what?
don't put Michael Jordan. Look, yeah, LeBron is great, whatever. But Michael Jordan, I mean,
See,
I don't know.
he said whatever. See, everybody feels the same way about LeBron.
Why is it LeBron being the one that's faded so hard when he, historically, with the exception of the 90s Bulls, faced some of the toughest and most fast evolution. This is the fastest evolution in NBA history. We went through 3 eras in 15 years that were all predicated on so many other things happening within and without of the sport. So I really find it weird to people completely take down LeBron James. I know why Marvin built his team the way he built his team. But I really don't like the idea of the conversation being that LeBron is not currently the greatest player on the planet. You can make the argument between him, Kevin Durant, and a few other people. But to not put
You
it...
can't make that argument.
Why can't you make
First
that
of all,
argument?
I'm watching Team USA lose because they don't have a dog like LeBron James on their team. Kevin Durant, while he's a great player, he's not a dynamic leader. He's not a dog. So he's out of the
But does that also come down to the fact that they had the shortest turnaround time in Big Four American sports history, and Durant had to carry a team for 82 games while the other two key pieces of that team were on the shelf? Like, I get it. Like, and also we talked about this at the top of the show. The world is catching up to the United States. And also they had their best they've been playing together longer. These Olympic and World Championship teams are this basic conversation we're having right now. We're going to go into NBA 2K, we're going to pick the 12 best guys and JaVale McGee and figure it out. And then you have to build that with Greg Popovich, who's a system coach who developed a very different style to what Mike Krzyzewski put together with the U.S. national team. So there are so many things within this that really make it hard for you to say, like, they don't care that Kevin Durant's not a dog. We just saw him carry the Brooklyn Nets with Montrezl Harris and I think the ghost of Draza on that team. Like, I think I was the 8th man on that squad because I lived 20 minutes from the Barclays.
So I feel if I can't get Eric Montrose first, then I want the captain. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Eric Montrose first.
Well,
who would be your head coach?
Abdul-Jabbar, man.
I think that's a good question. Though. Who would be your head coach? Can we narrow this down to head coaches too? Because there's a bunch of coaches I can name right out the gates. I can name a couple of them, and I'm talking about some old school. Like you might disagree with this one, but I would say Robert Montgomery Knight would be one of my coaches.
Boom, boom, boom.
You know why? Because, and I'll tell you why. Because love him or hate the guy, he was all about winning.
Yeah,
he didn't give a damn, and Isaiah Thomas was living proof of that because he even said, I don't care how talented you are, I don't care how skilled you are, this is my team, you will play my style of basketball, or you don't play for this institution at all. And that's what made him a great coach. Everybody adapted his style of play, and that's the way it was.
One Hall of Famer, with those national championships, one Hall of Famer.
And the only coach to still have a perfect season, by the way. 1976 Hoosiers, probably one of the greatest college teams of all time.
Yeah, man, that's impressive.
That was fundamental basketball at its best.
John Wooden, baby. Don't sleep on John Wooden.
John Wooden did too. That's two right there. That's two right there. So that's two old school. That's John Wooden and Bob Knight.
Yeah.
I got one that's good for conversation purposes. Bill Russell. I think Bill Russell.
Player and coach, by the way.
Yeah.
Player and coach.
Yep.
He's my first draft pick on my team. I start all of my teams with Bill Russell. 11 rings, first player coach championship, first a Black American coach. I'm sorry, I start with him 100%. Even if it's the baseball team, I'm picking Bill Russell.
And if you had to coach Tommy Heinsohn at any point, you're doing yourself a service. Taking a look at the chat really quickly. This is
Red Auerbach.
Oh, Red Auerbach up there too.
Yeah.
This is Tankapalooza 2021. I am Matt Ryan, joined by the cadre of humans. Taking a look at the chat really quick. Dr. Download saying he wants Bobby Knight. He wants the chair that Bobby threw on his team as the assistant coach. The sweater he wore while choking that kid, Joe Blair. Dr. Download saying that's the assistant coach for that team.
That's awful and funny.
Well, that's been every review for this show. Awful, funny. That's been the reviews for this show, either awful or funny.
Comma funny, right?
Yes. Oh yeah.
That's why he was called the general, though, because he was all about business. He made the rules, whether you liked it or not.
Absolutely.
I'd like to see Bobby Knight coach Latrell Sprewell.
Oh my God. Oh, I want that. I want that so bad. Latrell. All right, so Latrell Sprewell, World B. Free, Ron Artest.
Kermit Washington.
Kermit Washington. That's a good one. All right, so Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace coming off the bench.
And by the way, they're making a documentary about that, by the way, they said. Netflix is making a documentary about that, they said.
Oh, the Malice at the Palace? I can't wait. Yes. Zach, you got something? Zach's got something for us? What do you got?
Yeah, there is, we're talking all time, right?
Yeah.
There is one guy from the Spirit of St. Louis. Give me 1 second.
Oh, the Spirit of St. Louis.
Because we need enforcers.
Yeah. Dr. Download throwing in something in the chat. Head coach Latrell Sprewell.
Oh God.
Latrell being a head coach in the NBA is something we've missed out on. What do you got,
We
Zach?
have PJ Croissant as the assistant because, of course, that's-
Oh, there would be a body. There would be a body left behind a gas station at some point. Oh, I'm telling you, EJ and Latrell together again, there would be a body left behind a gas station somewhere in deep Georgia. So I'm telling you,
Oh, let it be a fly in
you
that
know what?
conversation.
It's
If that would
funny,
have
Brian.
happened.
Dr. Download saying Sprewell as a coach because he neutralizes all other coaches.
Absolutely.
Lucas?
Mo Lucas, that could be
I
it.
think it was Maurice Lucas.
I don't think people really realize how much the Malice in the Palace changed basketball to what
Sure.
it is today. Because think about it. Okay, it happened on a Friday night, right? So that goes down. David Stern gives that press conference at the Garden on Sunday or whatever, where he's trying to project anger, right? But then what's going to happen after that? All of a sudden now, if you touch the guy, Funky, whistle blow. They basically started eliminating contact, and to me now, that was the moment where the NBA shifted from being where I saw what was the name of the Boston Celtics guy? Kevin McHale.
Kevin McHale,
Double clothesline Kurt Rambis and go to the ref and say, he hit me! I didn't touch him, he hit me!
What about all the times Bill Laimbeer and Larry Bird got in a full... Like, this is the era of the great middleweight boxers. There were not a lot of great heavyweights pre-Tyson in the 80s, unless you're talking about, like, Leon Marvin
How about
Spinks.
Michael Jordan versus how about Michael versus Reggie Miller? Remember that?
Ooh, that was a good
man,
one.
That was a great one.
Danny Ainge almost bit off Tree Rollins' finger when they got in that fight. And during the playoffs that year, they went down to the mat. It was Tree Rollins had Danny Ainge in a headlock, and he came up and blood was going everywhere. Danny Ainge almost bit off Tree Rollins' finger in that game.
That would have sold out the Omni, I'll say that.
But all this stuff happening, and then all of a sudden the Malice in the Palace, Malice in the Palace happens. All of a sudden now, if anybody touched anybody, we're gonna get out a diaper and your stress card to let your drill instructor know, don't yell at me anymore. And I'm telling you, that's when we started seeing. To me now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're on.
That's when we started seeing the game change. That night changed everything. All the physical play started going out the window.
Are we?
In other words, the
accurate
NBA's
saying,
gotten
because
soft
I'm
now.
not?
Is what you're saying. NBA's gotten soft now. Is what you're saying, which is true.
Yes. No, I think everybody can agree with that, right? That it's a little soft.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a duality of the Malice at the Palace, the rules shifting. Trey Murphy III, his intangible on the draft board right there, incredible ping pong player. So that's something we needed to know while watching ESPN. Great job, worldwide leader. When we take a look at the way the play of basketball's evolved, it's also become a more athletic game. You're talking about Larry Bird, Bill Laimbeer. These guys are dock
Larry Bird
workers.
used to smoke
Yeah.
during timeouts.
Thank you.
He was a big time drinker too.
Do we want more people smoking Camel Lights between games?
I mean,
Well,
look, I don't care, but I'd rather
that.
that than a bunch of softies be playing the game, man.
I don't know. They're softies, but they're also playing with tremendous amounts of injury. Like the wear and tear now because of the athletic evolution of the sport and how big everybody's gotten and how tall, how bigger, faster, stronger. It has, we have players missing larger swaths of time and also the quick turnaround. How many?
Matthew, I love you, and I'm not going to disagree with you, but I'm going to have to go with Coach on this one. You have this league now where cats, that dog, like Michael Jordan had that dog in him.
Oh my God, yeah.
Where like, he would take a bunch of guys. Magic Johnson, he was all smiling, all this other stuff. But when you heard the stuff he would say in the huddle, when you heard the stuff he would say in practice, it was just like Sister Teresa when we were playing Little League. She was the assistant baseball coach for a Catholic school. She also had a gambling habit. She would gamble on our games. She would find somebody in Greenwood, Mississippi to gamble on Little League games. And the year we won the city
Probably Pete Rose's aunt.
What's that?
I'm telling you, the year we won the city championship, We were down to East Greenwood by 2 runs. We had 3 innings left to go. She called a timeout. We were already scared because we never saw her feet or her hands. She pulled us into the back of the dugout, and she started cursing at us like she was a sailor and saying, "Mama got a habit today. I don't know what is wrong with y'all. Blank, blank, blankety, blank, 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 blank." I mean, 2 guys I know peed themselves for sure. So we come back out there. Now look, we're like 7, 8 years old. So now we're playing like we just got out of prison. We started spilling on every play. We started suicide squeeze. I mean,
You
no
sharpening
signs.
your spike.
Oh, absolutely, because we were so scared of her. So I have to find the picture of the trophy celebration. She's jumping up. There's the first time I saw her hands is in this picture. That's why I have to keep it. She's holding the trophy. She's jumping up with this crackhead glee look on her face while we're standing over like we're afraid we're about to get put in prison. And I found out later from another sister, oh yeah, she had big money on that game for you guys to beat East Greenwood. So that's having a dog in you. That's what you want. You don't see that anymore.
You want that for sure.
That's what,
Running the team.
But, gentlemen, as we get closer to the 10 o'clock hour, just to go around here, are you guys all in on this concept, build your ultimate team? You guys looking to enter into the contest for
Absolutely.
The winner gets pride and maybe a nice hat.
And dinner.
Paid for by the winner. The winner buys himself dinner.
I like
Okay, so I guess I'm not. So I guess I'll just forfeit this one. So
Winner gets a
Right
sandwich.
off on his taxes.
yeah, right up the tax. There you go. A tax write-off. Tax deduction.
But we'll roll on here. Just one final question for Michael, Tug, and Hassan as we roll on here before we let you guys go. It's getting later into the evening. We've got about an hour left, but I want to get this one question to each of you guys. If there's one player who defines what basketball means to you, the sport of basketball, that one player, who is it and why? And I'll start with Coach Hassan Duncan.
Wow, for me, it's easy because I actually love this guy as a player to the point where I modeled everything I did in basketball after this player, down to the taping my 2 fingers together before games in high school. That's Bernard King. I modeled, if you watch the way I played the game, the same turnaround jump shot, the same high arcing jump shot, I love him, and he is the game to me.
That's cool.
All right, let's go to Tug Cower. Tug, what do you got?
Okay, for me, I think it'll probably be obvious since I'm a Hawks fan. It's got to be Dominique Wilkins, the human highlight reel. I remember being so angry when Jordan beats Dominique in the dunk contest, and I was like, what am I seeing? I'm seeing this man be robbed without a gun. When they gave the dunk contest trophy to Michael Jordan, and he'd already done the free throw line dunk a couple times. I'm like, I already seen this. Dominique is out here making things up, doing things that I've never seen before, and they still give it to Jordan. I will never forgive whoever ran that dunk contest for robbing Dominique Wilkins. So for me, Dominique, I made the basketball team out of pity. They're like, this kid loves playing basketball so much, but he's horrible. We're still going to let him on the team. They wouldn't even let me get up to get the ball when it rolled out of bounds during a game. That's how bad I was. But I wanted to wear 21 so bad and never got to. It was all because of Dominique Wilkins.
All right, Michael Lyle, what's that one player for you?
It would be Allen Iverson.
Nice.
And I'll tell you why.
Yes.
And I'll say this because he's one of my all-time favorite players in basketball, period. Now, I watched Iverson when he was coming up through the ranks of Georgetown playing for another old-school coach, who, by the way, whose basketball camp I went to when I was in high school, the late John Thompson, one of my favorite coaches of all time. And Iverson learned under him how to play basketball, even though a lot of people say, well, Iverson was a selfish player. But if you watch his development through the college ranks and how he was able to transition from that to the NBA ranks, I mean, this was a future star to make it. He redefined the point guard position with his play.
Amazing.
He was doing, he carried that Sixers team through the rough years and made them a contender. And he made that city love basketball all over again. And even though I'm a Knicks fan, but I was amazed by what Iverson did on the court. I mean, his ability, and I'll never forget my all-time favorite play was when he crossed up Michael Jeffrey Jordan in his rookie year. I'll never forget that highlight. One of I always watch the highlight reels I played. How did Michael let a rookie cross him up like that? It was ridiculous. And I think that was a start of that's where we saw a star was born. Like, okay, we knew he was a star coming in, but then that moment defined his career. Like, oh no, this guy now is going to go places, because he just did that to what many say is the greatest player of all time. And then he went on to become a great player even after that. He became one of the more marquee players. I'm a huge fan of his sneakers, by the way. I love his sneakers. I mean, there's actually 3 basketball player sneakers I'll ever wear in my lifetime, and they're all from that 95-96 season. Iverson's rookie sneaker, Grant Hill's rookie sneaker, and Michael Jordan's Jordan 11s. I think hands down the best 3 sneakers of all time I will wear. So they were marketers in terms of fashion, in terms of their footwear, and I was also a fan of Iverson for that reason. So for me, Allen Iverson, hands down.
All right, now go to Marvin Williams.
No, it's crazy because for me, I was listening to these guys. These are great. For me, everything, and I'm just going to say it in a crazy way. For me, it all kind of starts with Bill Russell. Just sort of what he represented, not just as a basketball player, but and I'm going to say this not in the gender way, but just in sort of a personal way. What he represented as a man when he spoke to people, getting a chance to meet him when I was really, really young and really did not understand basketball well. But to see him speak to people, I watched him speak, I want to say it was for almost an hour. He never mentioned basketball. He talked about making good choices in life and doing all these other things.
I love that.
Yes, and absolutely, Tug. I mean, and yes, there are other players that I love. But in terms of if I were to say, if I could have anybody be my ambassador to the aliens for what basketball is, it would be him, because it's going to be more than just about the game, and that's why he means so much to me.
I love that, man, and I wish there were more people that looked at players from that perspective. And maybe they do after players retire and they're not in the heat of the moment and trying to win championships and play, and later they speak out or speak on on behalf of kids like you and guys like you. And I love that, man, when there's something more than just the raw God-given talent, or they recognize that they have the ability to do something good. And I love, man, there's nothing better than that. What a great story. I love that.
I appreciate that, brother. And I got to say to you guys, over the years, Michael and I met via, through Twitter. Tug, I get the blessing of hearing this guy talk on the radio, and just always had to find time, no matter where I was in the world, I had to find time to hear Tug talk, because man, that brother's just so smart. And then Coach shaped so much of my life when I was learning how to not just be a professor, not just be a coach, but to relate to people. Coach he did so much for me. I just tweeted out a picture of us back when we were coaching together. This guy, I wish I could put into words how much you 3 guys have come to just mean to me as people. And I just want to thank you for coming on this. I can't wait to do more stuff with you guys.
Well, we appreciate that.
It's just great to see when we finally meet face to face, even digitally, that you're better than what I imagined you to be as we were sort of messaging back and forth. So I just want to say thank you guys, man.
You're too kind, brother. Thank you.
Very kind. Very kind.
Man, it was such a pleasure to be able to talk to you guys.
Absolutely.
It won't be the last time.
No, not at all. We're Tug. We'll talk on Twitter about podcasts and all that other stuff. But more importantly, it's time for plugs. It's time for the reason for the season. Let's start off with Tug Howard. Tug, where can people find you on the social medias, and how can they listen to your wonderful, wonderful voice on the radio every day?
Easy to find. You can find me at Tug Cowart, TUGCOWART. Just at Tug Cowart across all the social media platforms. And you can find me at New Country 101.5 in Atlanta, at 680 The Fan, and at Extra 106.3.
Doing the loop there, brother. And let's go over to Michael.
His son is going to be my first autograph from like a baseball player. Jacob's autograph.
You're kind. Yeah, he's working hard, man. He's working really hard. We've been talking with a lot of college coaches. If he were just a tick taller, I'm 5'10". If he were a tick taller, he would have as a sophomore probably a few offers, but not quite there yet. He's working hard, and but I think he has the ability, and most of his coaches think he has the ability to play D1 ball. Probably
Beautiful
not
swing.
Power 5 just because he doesn't have the height.
Beautiful swing, though. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
If you got talent, they're going to find. Here's a beautiful swing.
Thank you.
Trust me, God's got him covered, brother. God's got him covered.
Thank you. You're too kind. I appreciate that.
And Michael Lyle, where can we find you on social media, and where can we hear, read, or see you?
Well, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Lyle Multimedia. That's where you can find me on both platforms. You can hear me on the radios up here. I'm on like 4 different stations, so the best thing I can say is just follow my social media page that I promote when I'm on the radio. I'll be on the radio tomorrow up here in Massachusetts doing local news. And that's just the thing, guys. I'm not just a sports guy. I do local news as well for Connecticut, Massachusetts, and parts of Vermont. So I'm pretty much covering a lot of the New England regions up here doing news and not just sports.
That's tremendous. And jack of all trades in 2021.
And I'm sorry, I got to get this in too. So since you like Allen Iverson, I have an Allen Iverson sweatband. Game used. I'm gonna DM me your address. I will dig it up and I will get it to you. Okay? Yes.
You really would do
Cool, man.
I have one.
I'm gonna
Okay,
do
you
that
remember that
right
rap
after
record he
the
did?
program, So don't.
Okay, please do.
I'm gonna do it.
Please do. No, please do. Remember that rap record he did? I was one of the musicians that were working on that project. That's how I got a chance to meet him and got a chance to go see him play some games or whatever. So I have a sweatband from him with his logo and everything. I'm saying it on the public. It's yours if you want.
I'm gonna DM you as soon as I get off. Don't wait. If you put it in the mail tomorrow or whenever, I'll be expecting it soon, and I'll make sure I give you a shout out of all proportions. No doubt.
As soon as we're done, I'm going to go look for it. It's either here or at my Atlanta house. It's one of the two houses. I will find it. It's coming to you.
And
I
Kai
appreciate
Jones
that,
getting
brother.
taken by the New York Knickerbockers, and I believe that might be a trade. He might be traded to Charlotte. So for a future first. But to the man who keeps coaching here in New York, a man who played for Penn, Coach Duncan, where can we find you on social media, and where can we follow what you're doing next in your life and career?
Well, honestly, I'm on Twitter sporadically, but I'm more so a Facebook guy or Instagram guy. I mean, I'm not, the only project that I'm working on now is a documentary with a gentleman who does basketball. He's doing a documentary on our West 4th Street team from 1996.
That's cool.
And I'm looking forward to that. He's actually scheduling coming to the house to sit with me for a little while and talk about that. But that's what's next for us.
Well, that sounds tremendous. Where can we find you on Twitter, and where can we find you on Instagram?
Instagram is Brooklyn Haas, BKLYNHASS. And on Twitter, it's The Real Haas.
Well, thank you so much, Hassan Duncan. Thank you so much, Tug Cowart. And thank you so much,
Yes, sir.
Michael Lyle, for joining us here tonight for Tankapalooza 2021. Be sure to follow them across all social media, guys. It's been an honor and a pleasure to talk nonsense with you, and excited for more episodes of Yelling in the future with you guys on board.
Thanks so much,
Thank
guys.
you.
Have a
Thank
great
you
night.
so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Coach, thank you so
Love y'all,
much. It was
man.
great seeing you.
Hey, love you, brother. Can't wait to talk.
Take care, guys.
Love you, absolutely.
Take care,
Keep up.
gentlemen.
I'm gonna DM you about that Iverson.
Please do.
Just remember that.
Please do.
I'm not joking.
Please
about
do.
that, just for the record.
Same here. Same here.
All right, brother. Thanks,
brother.
guys.
We are live here on the Yelling YouTube channel, and right now it's just me and the good doctor. And I have an odd feeling we're not going to be alone. We got Zach and Steph on the other side of the glass. Kai Jones
All
going
right.
to the Knicks. And Doc, your thoughts on everything going on so far tonight? How you feeling? How you living? What do you think of everything that's been going on so far tonight?
You know, it's weird, man. I was sort of following, like, you know me, I hyper research everything, which is something I'm trying not to do. It's funny, Coach was laughing because, he kind of broke me of that habit. And just kind of look at the game for what it is, right? And I'm looking at these draft picks, and I'm looking at, you never expect all the mocks to be right. You just don't. Who knows who's going to do what, and then if you pick somebody, this is going to move down the way Zach was pointing out to us earlier, right? But it's just this thing where, and again, this is an awesome moment for these guys, and I want to keep it that way, but I have to say, outside of like Cunningham and a couple other cats, I don't see them in a real position to be put on bad teams, and to have, especially teams that they're going to right now. Detroit might be different because of just that organization is just still solid, even though the team isn't. The organization is still solid. But some of these other organizations, man, they're struggling with the front office, with the GMs, a bunch of turnover right now. All of them, not all of them, many of them are in salary cap, HE double hockey sticks. You have all this other stuff going down, and then you get these players who are coming into a league where I'm just going to say, and Haas, who I believe played a couple of years pro ball in Europe, can attest to this. Grown man basketball is different. When you go, Trae Young for Atlanta, he was like the blessing out of the sky, right moment, right time, right team. But he got beat up a lot because these cats in the NBA are grown men. And you're seeing it start to turn over in the WNBA, where these are grown women and grown men who now have years, decades of basketball and basketball awareness in their system. And they're putting it on these young guys. And they're coming out younger. And they're coming out lighter. You see a cat who's 6'8", and he weighs 190 pounds. I'm sorry, brother. You need to hit Whataburger right now. And stay, because when you go into the low post and somebody like, the Milwaukee Bucks, Antetokounmpo, or somebody like that lays a real body on you, and you feel like you have a building laying on the top of your head that's crumbling as you can't breathe anymore, the world gets different real fast. Very few cats are like Kevin Garnett. Very few cats are like Moses Malone. Very few cats are like, look at it. Kobe Bryant was a role player when he came out. But as he got bigger and better, it sort of stretched out his game. Going back to, I think it was the 96 draft was the draft where you had all these high school kids coming out. It was like a huge draft of like high school players in 96. And when you look at all of the old school players or the guys who were four years in college, they were like, wait a minute, I've been playing at Duke for 4 years. We won 2 national championships. Or I've been playing at this place. Or I've been at North Carolina. I've been here, I've been there. And I'm going to get drafted behind a high school player who plays my position, which means I'm not going to go 4th, 5th, or 6th. Now I'm going to go in the 2nd round, maybe, or whatever. Please fact check me on that. But I believe it was the 96 draft where you had all these high school players coming out. So, I know it's a long way to answer your question, but it's this idea of we have these players. Like I say, I was really curious about Chris Duarte, because here's a guy who's still sort of coming to grips with living in America. And now 1 year in college, yes, it was Oregon, so I guess that's still America. 1 year in college, and now he's in the NBA.
Yeah.
And just, what that sort of means, I want to see these guys succeed. But, again, I'm going to have to take Trae Young out of it. Not just because I'm being biased to Atlanta, but the reality of it is first-round draft picks don't see the playoffs or significant players in time in the playoffs or team in the playoffs as key players until their 6th or 7th year. And that's if they're still in the league. That's the other thing. Less than 30% of these guys are going to be in the league by the time they get to their next contract. So, it's a hard go. It's a special night. I don't want to be the get off my lawn guy, because I flushed that a long time ago. But the reality of it is, I would really, really like to see these guys succeed. If for nothing else, the influx of younger, aggressive talent into the league, in a place where we can hopefully say, wow, now we have a balance of older players and younger players, and we can really see the development of the league. And, whether they're wearing a white suit or not, a white tux or not, we can definitely appreciate what they're bringing. I'm hoping to see that really happen, with this particular draft class, with all the pressures they've gone through.
Yeah.
A year after COVID, lockdown, some of them barely had a college year. everything that entails, this has to feel good for them, and I hope it really is a good thing for them.
Oh, most certainly, you want that. You want that for them. You want that for those players. And coming out of COVID, we've spent the last 18 months or so on lockdown. And, you talk about all these efforts, all the energy you put into you got this guy coming out of Atlanta's new pick, Jay Johnson.
Wow.
Jalen Johnson, the 20th
Yeah.
pick, opted out of Duke 13 games into the season to focus on his health and focus on getting into the NBA draft. That for me, that for him is a bigger deal. That's a big turnaround, and that's not something you necessarily want to deal with. You don't want to opt out, especially when you're playing for Mike Krzyzewski. That's not something you want in the least bit. But we move
And now
on.
Mike Krzyzewski's not going to be there anymore.
Yeah, no, he's wrapping it up. I think he's got 1 or 2 seasons left. One season left. It's the last.
I think it's one season and done. I think he's already announced he's out. And it's funny because Jalen Johnson was actually a player. And thinking about what the Hawks could do, selfishly, I kind of wanted to be Trey Murphy because I want to have 2 Treys on the team, like Trey 1, Trey 2 kind of thing. But that's just me being greedy. But Jalen Johnson was definitely a guy that I was thinking about could actually be the other piece that the Hawks were missing. Yes, the Hawks got. It's funny. The Hawks last year. And I never told you how I came back to the Hawks. I was a Hawks fan before. Like Tug, Dominique was my guy. Tree Rollins, Moses Malone, Reggie Theus, that whole thing, right? So, and from working with me for so long, what drove me from the NBA was how the game really started to change. But I got into college ball, so I became a Trae Young fan watching him in college. I'm like, I like this guy. He's funky. He's tough. He has his game going. So when he ended up getting drafted by the Hawks, it was kind of like I brought my fandom for Trae Young from his college days to the pro team that I used to love, that I started loving again because of him. I had no idea that he was going to turn out being as good as he is. I was hoping that, but to see the Hawks this past year remind me of the Braves 4 years ago or 3 years ago.
That
they
young
got to
team.
the playoffs. Young team got to the playoffs ahead of schedule. Had a really good showing ahead of schedule, and that raised the level of expectations from everybody. So, but Jalen Johnson was the guy that I was hoping that, if it couldn't be Trey, it could be another Trey, Ice Trey 1, Ice Trey 2, that, a guy who comes from a program that's super, super solid, that is with a coach that has a way to speak to players that they might not become the superstar face of the team, but become such solid role players that every team they own, they seem to lift up. They seem to lift up. So I think it's a great pick for them. I think it fit perfect, and I think a lot of great things will happen because of that.
Certainly, and we've got another guest here on the show tonight. I'm Matt Ryan, joined alongside Marvin Williams. We are yelling Tankapalooza 2021, but
I know we've come to the end of the road.
Oh no! Oh, hi.
How's it going, sweet cheeks?
Why?
Hey, look. Now, I don't know what the stylist does or where she got her training. But do you see, I look like a 5th member of Boyz II Men. Look at this. All white tux.
The 4th and a half member.
That's ableist, and I won't take that from you.
Marvin, have you met Marvin yet?
I don't know. I'm not gonna like him. He's gonna call me short. I can't help how Puppet God made me. Good Lord. Let that dog out of the room. She must have also chew in my suit.
It's a nice suit, Dan. Where'd you get this stuff?
I look like I belong on a cruise ship in Saint Denis.
Saint Denis?
Saint Denis, whatever.
You look like a lottery draft pick, brother.
You do. You're dressed for the draft. You're draft ready.
Small, fat, and taller than Muggsy Bogues. Very true.
How do you know that? How'd you come to learn that?
Although he has more stuffing than I do.
Oh, you got that right. he's now officially round.
Come on, it's time. It was my favorite Space Jam.
Really?
4 feet 8. 4
Yeah,
feet
right.
8. 4 feet
If
8
I
every
wore his
direction.
jersey, it fit me normal. But I have to say, I'm so bored by all this. I don't know how you humans can stay. I'm so bored out of my felt skull.
Why, you don't like the NBA draft, Dan?
No, so I wanted to educate, and I wrote a top 5 list of things that annoy me as much as this draft.
Okay, Dan, what's you got your list?
Yes, thank you, Handler. Top 5 things that are as annoying as the draft. Number 5, automatic soap dispensers. They don't recognize felt as a skin type. Number 4, school zones.
True.
I'm not going to elaborate. Number 3. Yes, soak it in, America. Number 3. Hold the card up, sweetheart. Number 3, prohibition. Again, don't need to explain that part. A dark day in human history. Falls only short of when Amelia Earhart disappeared.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a fan of aviation history.
Really?
Why does that surprise you?
Everything about you.
I fly for free. Because I'm fucking the stewardesses, not because I'm a puppet. Butterball. You've been damned.
Ugh. I hate you.
Number 2. Pockets in these what am I carrying here? Thimbles?
I didn't.
So small. Let that dog out of the room.
Where are those pictures
Hey,
I'm supposed to see?
Oh, she's very angry. I know, there's 2. Do you want to put stuff in my pockets? Okay, dog treats? You're just sweetie. And the number 1 thing that I find as annoying as the NBA draft, but a Fuco.
I understand the school zones because, I know he's got
Coming
to
after
stay
you,
at least
one of
1,000 feet away from kids.
I know he's not a host anymore. I'm gonna still come after him. You're gonna find me in your mailbox. I'll be kind of useless without,
A
a
hand.
person with me. You're just gonna find a toy in your mailbox for your kid. This kid's in college right now. I don't know. Does he have kids?
Yeah, he's got a kid.
Is he gonna go into puppetry?
I don't think so.
I'll be in your mailbox. It'll be a gift. Love you, sweetie.
Dan, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, where's my drink?
You want some of my wine?
What am I, a woman? Well, the equipment's not there, but I'm all man. I can be sewed on as much of a man as you need. Although the average puppet size is 4.5 centimeters.
Is that a good thing?
Okay.
Well, that's huge. Almost packing. I doesn't tell you that.
Some
brags
stats,
about
some
it.
stats you might want to keep to yourself.
He brags about it at the puppet Christmas party. Shows it to everybody. It's where I learned it. It's from Elmo and Ric Flair.
You got the Ric Flair drip tonight, Dan.
Yeah, here comes Chew on this awful suit. Although we've come to the end of the road.
Thank you, Dan. Danny White looking at the chat real quick. Oh, great. Now I've got a suit jacket. Hold on a second.
Hey, Zach,
Yeah,
look at my dick.
Uncalled for.
Voice the Man definitely should have let him sing more.
Well, you got kicked out because of that thing.
Who's this little puppet
because
from?
of that thing.
Oh, she's too young for me. Get this puppet away from me.
Taking a look at the chat real quick. Oh, God, don't. Oh, thank you for throwing that. Justin Roberts saying Marvin is a stud. Dr. Download saying you got the suit from Dan A. Bank instead of Joseph A. Bank. You're gonna look the way you look, I guarantee it. And then a We Stand Dan chant. This coming into the instant feedback. Danny White's used tux and half-price gym emporium. 2 exits south of Weehawken.
That shit. Yeah, that's good. That's right, Gregory.
Double guns. But I feel like
Analysis equipment.
I think we gotta end on a high note, Doc. I really do think we gotta end on a high note.
Absolutely.
Final thoughts from you as the Knicks and Knicks trade number 21 Keon Johnson to the Clippers. The Knicks now have pick 25.
Yes.
Your final thoughts on the longest show you and I have done in at least 5-7 years.
Let's see. Our baseball special was a little under 2 hours, I think.
Yeah.
So you're right. This is the longest show we've ever done. So okay. So three things. One, 3 of my favorite names in basketball are in this draft, and I just hope they stay. JT Thor. He's got to make it someplace because his name is Thor. Aaron Henry, because, well, Aaron Henry, Aaron, you get it. And I just got to say, anybody who has a name with a food, they're going to be like an instant favorite of mine. So Isaiah Livers.
That's not
Isaiah
a name.
Livers.
That's not a name.
He's I mean, look, Nacho Elvira is my favorite golfer because it's nachos. Isaiah Liver is going to be my favorite basketball player because I love liver and onions. Oh, and there's another dude. His last name is Boston. So I was kind of hoping he'd get drafted by the Lakers. So have a Laker uniform with Boston on the back and get all the jokes in. But anyway, Matthew, it's so funny, man. I thank you everybody for who was clicking on us and watching and chatting and everything. You know, when Matthew brought this idea up, and we didn't want it to be like the talking head. This is this guy's rebound stats. This is this guy's shooting percentage. You know, you can get that anywhere. You know, the guests we had on, the people, you know, Dr. Download, everybody we have coming on, Zach, Stephanie. It's about how regular people who aren't immersed in reading all the metadata of every, I'm going to show all the metadata.
You did a lot of research on this.
Bruh, you have no idea how much stuff I got in here because I was going to be totally ready. And I said, just in case we make the mistake of going down the basketball rabbit hole, I want to at least know what I'm talking about. And I'm so glad we did, man. It's just what it was supposed to be. And so, again, congratulations to all these cats getting drafted tonight, first, second round, onward. And hopefully they have long careers, man. And it's life-changing for a lot of them. They can take care of their families now. You know, I still see cats like Jermaine O'Neal when he got drafted, right out of high school. I still hear his interview in my head when he talked about how he was tired of seeing his mom go between 3 and 4 jobs. And he had an opportunity, even though as much as he wanted to go to school, and he said it over and over again, going into the NBA draft, that opportunity of being told that he was going to get drafted early, and he was a lottery pick, that he was going to go early, he was going to make a difference for his family, and that's what a lot of these cats are going to be able to do. And I really hope it happens that way, man. I really do. It's going to be great to see. And I can't wait to see, you know, we made no predictions of who was going to make it, who was not going to make it. Though, if you're out there, please, JT Thor, just keep that in your mind. Get him on the team for me. I want that jersey. It's big fun, man. It's big fun.
This has been a great way to celebrate the NBA draft. We're definitely going to do more of these throughout the rest of the year at various high points. This is this week's episode of Yelling. It's the longest episode in the history of Yelling. I want to thank all of our guests tonight. I want to thank Zach Morgan. Zach, where can people find you on social?
On social, you can find me on Twitter at Captain_Z Morgan. I produce a lot of really interesting hockey takes and bad basketball takes. Come find me there.
Well, you're on the team now, so you know you're a part of this. So I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But we also Steph Sotilli. You can follow her on Twitter at Steph Sotilli. You can follow her on TikTok at God's Unwanted Daughter. You can follow me on Twitter at MRyanConsulting. We were about to have Dr. Download on the show, but he was trying to call in and T-Mobile completely blocked him. From Shams on Twitter, Usman Garuba, number 23 in the NBA draft. These guys going hot and heavy here. But I want to thank our guests tonight. I want to thank Tug Cowart for joining us. I want to thank Michael Lyle Jr. and I want to thank Hassan Duncombe. You can follow Coach Duncombe on Twitter at TheRealHaas42. That's The Real HASS42. You can follow Tug on Twitter at Tug Cowart, and you can follow Michael at Lyle Multimedia. And I want to say you can follow us at We Are Yelling. That is We Are Yelling on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram. We are also on Facebook. You can watch new episodes of Yelling live or unlive at worldwideleadersports.com. That's worldwideleadersports.com. This has been a fun experiment. I've done live shows before for SB Nation and for Vox Media, but this is some of the most fun I've had in a long time because we've been able to just sit down, shoot the breeze, and have a fun sports talk radio show with some video elements and me and some fanciful lighting. I want to thank Danny White for existing and making me laugh my ass off just now. But for Marvin Williams, for all of us here at Yelling, I'm Matt Ryan. We will see you. We are on the road to nowhere, but come for a ride. We'll